we do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com. Shop there today and make yourself look good.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio. This is Rob G. This is not Dave Scott. This is Rob G. Filling in for Dave Scott tonight. So I definitely want to welcome everybody in tonight. Dave still having internet issues. However, a little birdie tells me that we may have a visitation via cellular network with Dave Scott and Tim James coming in with the UFO report in hour number 3, right? We're having a great show tonight. Tonight we have Christian McLoud, who is the founder, director, and lead investigator of the Asheville Cryptid Society. So we're going to be definitely jumping into some monsters, cryptids, woo for the night. This is a woo night, Friday night woo night. That's what we're going to go ahead and call it. And we're going to have a lot of that tonight as we wait to be joined by our guest, Christian McLoud. He'll be in the building in a moment. Let me go ahead and jump right on into the chat as we always do and go ahead and see who has come in first. Who has come in first? Let's use our psychic abilities. Let's go ahead and look into the crystal ball of the chat and see who has shown up first. It shows here Robert Lamont Jr. with the gold, saying, "What's up, Dave? What's up?" I'll say what's up on behalf of Dave. However, you will be able to say what's up to Dave in hour number 3. So make sure you stick around for that. Also, who do we have? We have Kitty Catty Whack coming in with the bronze, and then we have Race Fan coming in with Kitty Catty Whack with the silver, and then Race Fan with the bronze. Let me go ahead and get this straight, man. Let me get this going, right? All right. So we're going to have a great show tonight. Actually, while we wait for the guests to get here, we have a little time to go ahead and talk to others that are in the chat. We got Ann Joanne coming in. Thanks for showing up here tonight. We got Brad Ford saying hello all. Appreciate you coming in, Brad Ford. We got Melvin from Mars, WD-40, lubing us up to get us ready for the show, because Dave says that you got to be properly lubed to get into the show, and that's exactly what Melvin's doing tonight. So we appreciate you. We have Miss Catherine Jones stepping in the building tonight. We do appreciate you showing up, Miss Catherine. As always, we got Eternity Eternal saying hi, Dave and SOR fans. Thanks for coming on in. Eternity Eternal, Thanks for showing up tonight and joining us as I step in on a Friday for Mr. Dave Scott. And who else do we have? Oh, we got the guy that'll be here a little bit later. First, Cosmic Joe Chronicle saying good evening, and then Tim James, UFO report Tim James of that fame, who will be joining us here tonight saying evening all. Thanks for showing on up. Appreciate you. We got T-Bone stepping in saying, hey, Captain, hey, all. Thanks for showing up, T-Bone. We appreciate you. We got Little Cam 51 coming in from Twitch. Little Cam, what's up, man? Thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you. Paranormal Pixie Laura saying, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Pixie. We appreciate you coming on in tonight. It's going to be an awesome show. We're getting into the woo, right? I got the reins of the woo train tonight, and we're going to be jumping into it with our guest in a moment here. Who else do we have? We have CS saying, good evening. Good evening, CS. Thank you so much for showing up tonight. We appreciate your patronage and your support. Destiny Rocks. Hey, Destiny. Thanks for coming on in with the wavy hand emojis. We appreciate you showing up. We got Deanna Ann saying hello, peace signs in the mushroom sign. Okay. I'm with you. Thanks for coming on in, Deanna. Who else do we have? Michael Fontaine saying hello, everyone. Hey, Michael Fontaine. Thanks for coming into the show tonight. Thanks for joining us here. And this is technically Dave's show, but we're taking over tonight. This is the After Hours radio show tonight. Who else do we have? We got Lars Jansen saying good morning, all. Love and horns. Okay, I'm with that. Thanks for coming in. Lars Jansen. We got Millennium waving them to Miss Catherine. Thanks for coming in, Millennium. We got Brown Dwarf. Good evening, Brown Dwarf. Right back to you. Thanks for showing up. We got Tamothman saying, greetings, time travelers. Yep, appreciate you showing on up. Paranormal Pixie Laura says, after hours? Yeah, after hours. Yeah, we're doing it. Stepping in and taking over the show tonight. Who else do we have? We got Abbott Hoffman saying, Davidus Maximus. Okay, we like that. Appreciate you coming in, Abbott Hoffman. Thanks for your support tonight. Who else do we have? Let's keep moving down the list here. Moving kind of fast, but that's good, right? We got Lex Diaz showing up with all sorts of emojis, horns, googly eyes, spaceship alien heads, and the guitar. Yeah, love it. Thanks for coming on in, Lex. Appreciate you. What else do we have? Move down the list. We got, Jay Truthseeker stepped in the building. Hey, I live Rob G2 or love Rob G2. Either way, I appreciate you, Jay Truthseeker. Thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you. Millennium notice. He said, sweet Robbie G. Yes, I'm here tonight. Who else do we have? We got, let's see, who else do we have? Are we almost already there? We are moving fast down the list. We got, my guy right here, Paramarv. Howdy, folks. Hey, Paramarv, thanks for coming on in. Brian Cheshire. Hi from Orlando. Hey, Brian, thanks for showing up here at the after. Well, we'll call it the after hours. Thanks for coming on in to Spaced Out Radio, filling in for Dave Scott tonight. Who else do we have? We have Margaret Oliver saying greetings right back to you. And welcome. If your first time here to the show, definitely want to let you know how this goes down. Normally, Monday through Friday, this is Dave Scott, 9 p.m. to midnight Pacific. And then I am the weekend guy. I'm Saturday and Sunday with the After Hours radio show. They call me Mr. Rob G, and we really get it in on the weekend. So if you're here during the week, make sure you're here on the weekend. It's awesomeness and then more awesomeness, and it's 7 days a week. You just saw Lee and Jack's hour before here. They're every Friday, 8 p.m. to 9 Pacific, so you want to make sure you're watching that as well. We'd appreciate a like and subscribe if you're here for the first time. So thanks for coming on in. Who else do we have? My guy, Flat Six. Appreciate you. Flat Six is a wrench over at the Social Dig. Thank you for coming on in. We appreciate you. Lovey Love, LBL, Dr. Love, saying, hey, Rob, Spaced Out Radio fam. Hey, Lovey Love, thanks for showing on up tonight. Who else do we have? We are moving down the list. We got Terrence Wills saying, hello, fellow aliens. Hey, Terrence Wills, appreciate you to see right over here. This is the Alien Me, Alien Head Rob G. We do have these, by the way, at the SOR swag store, spacedoutradio.com/shop. T-shirts, socks, draws, anything that you need. Make sure you guys go over there and pick it up. We have a lot of new stuff that we added during the break. So please make sure you go on and get your swag and then take a picture in it, send it to us right on the website in the SOR fan zone. Click on the fan zone tab, submit your pics in your swag so we can go ahead and get those things posted up on the website. That would be awesome. Who else do we have here? We got P. Green Pilgrim. Love it. Saying, sup, Rob. Sup, P. Green Pilgrim. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you showing on up tonight. Who else do we have? We're moving down the list. We are getting there. Tonight, we get to say hi to everyone because we are waiting on our guests to come on in. So we have a couple minutes here to do this. Andrew in Gnomes Trucking Express. I met Christian McLoud in Nebraska at the Bigfoot conference. Yeah, I heard that. I heard Dave met him there as well. And I heard he's really into the cryptid stuff, right? So it's good. I can't wait to ask him a bunch of questions, man. Definitely. Appreciate you coming in, Andrew. Who else do we have? Let's keep moving down the list. We are moving. Okay, yeah. Aaron P. saying, sup, Rob. Sup, Aaron. Appreciate you coming in and showing your love tonight. We do appreciate it. Paul DeMond says, Rob G is a boss. It's appreciated, but Paul DeMond is a boss. That's who's a boss. And appreciate you coming on in, Paul DeMond, and joining us here tonight as we get it in. Get the woo in tonight here at Spaced Out Radio. I'm just going to call it After Hours. I'm taking over Dave's show today. It's the After Hours. Who else do we have? We got Ferret, the Ferret, coming on in saying hi, Miss Catherine Jones and everyone. Hey, the Ferret, thanks for coming on in tonight. But just like I said, Dave Scott will be joining us. He promised he'll be joining us in hour number 3 via cellular technology. So we will see how that turns out. Who else do we have? Let's go. Yep. Andrew says no ugly swag at SOR. No ugly swag at SOR. I do agree. Paul DeMond says he needs some new draws. That's what I'm talking about. You can pick those up. They are there. There's many versions. There's the Rob G draws, the Dave Scott draws. There's we added a few extra other pair of draws. Make sure you guys go check it out. And some new shoes over there. So if you're in need for some new kicks, or you want to put together your Christmas list, since we're 4 months out, if you celebrate Christmas or any holiday, birthday, anything coming up, you can definitely go right on over to the store and put in your order. Let's see. Moving down the list here. Yeah, Joe Monk. Joe Monk is here, and Joe Monk says, Tim, did you see the fun and hijinks I posted on my emergency page today? Fill us in, Joe Monk. Don't keep it to yourself, man. Fill us in. We appreciate you showing up. Let's go. What else do we have here? We are moving down the list. And I think we are actually, looks like we are current. So I do appreciate you coming on in here tonight. Spaced Out Radio, filling in for Dave Scott. When you live in the middle of nowhere and you have storms that roll through, it's not very hard to knock down your infrastructure, right? So they have to reinvent the wheel back out there as they go ahead and maybe put telephone poles back up and, put the duct tape back on the wires that connect in the middle of nowhere and all that good stuff. So that's pretty cool. So we are definitely waiting for our guests here tonight. So we're just going to hang out for a second here and let me check a little something here. Our guest is not on social media platforms, and we are actually communicating through email. So I'm waiting to see what our guest says tonight for our guest responds here. And with that being said, how have you guys been doing? Let me see what he said. Joe Monk, Rob, a crazy homeless lady criminal tried to burn Grass Valley down today, started a huge fire right in the middle of town. Wow. I've been to Grass Valley, really small town, really cool little area. I like passing through there in the foothills. of Northern California. If you've ever been there, if you know the area, then you know Grass Valley. Not many ways to get there, though. I'll tell you, it's a couple little interstates that you may take 5 up north, and then I think it's like 49 or something like that. I know it's right off Highway 49, but I've been through there. Nice little small area, and let me see. Nice little small area, and I'm a guy that hops on the road. I like to just drive, right? Just go see what's going on out there. So I may just grab my keys, kind of fill up the tank, and hit the untraveled roads, hit the back roads. My girl is totally against that, right? So she gives me a hard time because anytime we go anywhere, instead of taking the Google Maps route or the Waze route, the recommended route that most people would travel, I find the little offshoots in the offcuts, and then I drive off road and take the long way, as she calls it. And she gives me a hard time about it, but I'm one of those guys that likes to drive. Terrence Wills wants to know, and we can talk about this. What's my favorite spookiest monster experience story? So we'll do that as we wait for our guest to come on in tonight. Let me take a look. Let me think. Favorite spookiest monster experience story. I haven't personally had dealings with, cryptids or anything like that. Just personally, I haven't seen anything like that. So it'd be hard for me to pick one of my own story. I mean, here's what I'll say. I guess if we're going to go off that, the scariest thing that's happening with me that I could tell, that I could speak to, would be the it would be the shadow person that we filmed in the house. So if you guys have been watching long enough, you have seen my shadow person, and I will definitely make sure that you guys see that at some time. Maybe we'll do that in hour 3. The shadow person you guys have seen. I've shown you the orbs that were filmed here in the house. I mean, these are things that I don't know necessarily spooky, but very unsettling. And probably the scariest of the bunch would be the mysterious lady that showed up at the front door in the middle of the day and asked to use our shower. Still don't understand that. We have cameras out front all around the house. The cameras will pick up a car driving past down the street, right? Every time. But they didn't pick this lady up walking up the driveway or walking back down the driveway. And maybe that's something that we'll talk to with our guest tonight. I think he just came on in. So let's go ahead and get the radio show going here and do it just like this, guys. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I'm your host tonight, Mr. Rob G, and we'll be broadcasting to our listeners on our terrestrial affiliates in North America and all digital platforms around the world. Remember, you can access our archives for free, absolutely free, at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow us on X and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio and at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire. You can get some official Spaced Out swag, plus rock out to some Bumblefoot and oh so much more. We are ready now to get into the show. We are ready to jump into the show. We're going to have Christian McLoud, who, like I said before, is the founder, director, and lead investigator of the Asheville Cryptid Society. We'll be speaking to him for hours 1 and 2. And then hour 3, we should get a surprise appearance via cellular communication from Dave Scott and Tim James. with the UFO report. So can't wait. Action-packed show. Don't go anywhere as we go ahead and get ready to bring in our guest for the night. None other than Christian McLoud, as he's joining us here. Hi, Christian. How are you today?
I am honored to be here, Rob. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. Doing great, doing awesome. I got the call tonight, and they said we're going to be jumping into the woo. Said that you are involved, they're investigator, researcher of all things that go bump in the night. So I'm ready to ask a lot of questions. And the way that I really like to start out is with everyone else. First time meeting, just kind of getting your backstory. What led you into what you're doing today? And, did you have any experiences early on, or when did that all hit you?
Well, man, thanks for having me. The truth of the matter is, Rob, I grew up in a haunted house, and I always thought that was normal. So, I'm from a small town in Maine, and everyone kind of had something like that. I mean, I'm from a place where everyone had a graveyard in the front yard or the backyard or behind the barn or something like that. So all that stuff was normal for us. And when I went to college in Florida, I realized that wasn't normal. So I guess, kind of started investigating then in the paranormal. I started doing cryptid investigations. I've always been into that, but my first experience with the cryptids happened when I was about 5 or 6. And I was with my grandfather and my cousin, and we were walking in the woods behind my house. And back then I lived right on the coast, and the Appalachian Trail was kind of the backyard. And we ran into this huge footprint. And my grandfather, who was a former World War II combat pilot, who I never saw, freak out at all, found this footprint and just kind of lost it, grabbed me and my cousin and started running back to the house. And he was mumbling something about the boss in the woods. And that's kind of how I got hooked on that. So ever since then, I've kind of been doing the whole gambit, if you will.
Wow. So, I mean, as a kid, right, coming into something like that, did you at the time understand what you were seeing? Was it explained to you then what that was, or?
Oh, I had no clue, man. I had no one. I'm from a kind of family where they if something bad happens, nothing's mentioned. It's always it's one of those things. It's just everything's covered up. Just nothing happened. Nothing happened. It's one of those things. Everything's fine. It was years later before I found out what he was actually talking about. And the real sad thing is he passed away when I was 5, so I didn't really get to have an adult conversation with him, and I really wish I had. Because I found out later that he had spent a year after World War II was over. He spent a year in Alaska, just kind of getting himself together, and I can only imagine what he ran into there. So I'm just guessing he had some kind of issues or experiences with our hairy little friend, and that just kind of. I just remember the shock on his face. I can remember that as plain as anything. I mean, and this was a good size, footprint. It must have been 17, 18 inches by, 8. And he just, I just remember his eyes like bugging out. He actually dropped his cigarette. And
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, kids are very pay a close attention to things like that. When you see someone who you believe to be this strong person reacting away like that, kids definitely pick up on that sense. So I can only imagine. Getting in when you did start getting into the research, like what would been one of your first cryptid encounters, or what is one you could speak to that kind of blew your mind?
When I moved to Florida, I used to go to the Mayaca area quite a bit. And when the Mayaca swamp issue happened, I believe that was in 93, 94. I was right around there. I mean, I was on ground for that the day after, or the day 2 days after when that happened. The famous picture where you see the swamp ape by the tree in Mayaca. That story has never really gotten enough ground as far as I'm concerned, because according to the witness, That creature was 9 foot tall.
Whoa.
So when you see that picture, the tree there that it's standing next to, I want to say that thing was like 7 foot tall. The tree in front of it, I believe, is 7.5 feet tall. So that'll show you how massive that thing was. But it was eating the grapefruits. I believe I think it was she had a pink grapefruit tree. And all her grapefruits kept disappearing. And what this thing was doing is when she saw it the first time, it was, and this is what I was told. Let me preface that. This is what I was told. The main witness said that, from what I was told, again, that it was eating grapefruit, but it was like grabbing 7 or 8 of them and just putting it in its mouth one at a time and just eating them. I mean, we're talking an entire grapefruit.
Wow.
And apparently she had seen it the night prior, and she went outside to yell at it and didn't realize what it was. And that was very interesting because that kind of got quiet real quick. And then years later, if you go to my website, cryptedguy.com, you can look at Mayaca evidence. For the last 4 years, I've gone back there every June and July and do an investigation. And we've had dogman incidents down there, cynocephaly, if you will, Bigfoot, just all kinds of crazy stuff. And it's very much a hot spot. But it seems to be only active usually in the summer months, which is interesting because you figure it'd be more active in the winter. But just from what we've investigated, it's not. And I am actually based in Hendersonville, North Carolina. So we do a lot with the Appalachian Trail and things like that. But the cryptid stuff is very interesting because it goes year round. I mean, we get reports year round. And paranormally, for some reason, we get more reports when November rolls around. And I you know what? I really don't know what that's about. I really don't know, Rob. I wish I did. It's like when the colder it gets, the more paranormal stuff we get. And I have a theory on that, and it's just I think there's just more electromagnetic activity in the air, and there's less humidity. It's just a thought I have. I can't prove it, and I've not done a whole lot of research into it. It's just a theory I have, but it's very interesting because in my particular area, we get reports year round. So my staff and I are always doing something. In fact, we're investigating. I was looking at a file right now. We're investigating a dogman report on the Appalachian Trail, not too far from here. So it's just there's always something going on around here.
Yeah, and with the cryptids, like, and I'll just kind of tell you a little bit about myself, in case you didn't know. Like, as far as this goes, I had my first experience with the phenomena. I just categorize everything under the phenomena, and UFOs was my first thing here. And thank you for the super chat, T-Bone. UFOs. So this is kind of what brought me in, just some over the top UFO experience. But the more that I move into this, I look at it like an onion, and every layer kind of takes me to something else. And now I'm into cryptids at this point. Haven't had an experience, but I have a lot of questions about it. And I'm not totally versed in all the cryptids, so I'll be leaning on you for some of that here. But one thing that I always ask is because I'm about taking the research that is gathered and coming to a conclusion at some point. How do you what is your approach to this, and what is your end goal? And when I ask that, I mean, for instance, you have someone like myself or just any other person who isn't really versed that goes into the woods often. You'll see the beware of bears sign, don't feed the bears, giving you warnings of things that you might encounter when you go into the woods. I'm under the belief that there should be some other signs up there, like beware of Sasquatch, beware of Dogman, or other cryptid things that you might encounter. How real is this as far as these things being living here on Earth, or maybe being dimensional creatures?
Well, first of all, that is a great question, Rob. And I'll be honest with you, I'm more in the school of their flesh and blood. I know we have a mutual friend that's convinced the woo-woo is a huge thing, but I got to be honest with you, man. I'm just not. The things I've seen and encountered, the woo woo is never really a huge part of it. Now, is it possible it is? Of course it is. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I'm an expert. First of all, I've said this since day one. There's no such thing as an expert in this field. Anyone telling you they're an expert in this field, just walk away because they're lying. I laugh at them because you're not an expert. Where'd you go to school for that, by the way?
Right.
So anyone that calls themselves an expert is just yanking your chain. But I'm a firm believer that they're flesh and blood. I personally think they've been here for millennia. I think they might even be an older race than humanity. But I also have a theory that I've been working on for quite a while on why their numbers had dissipated. If you look at 960 AD when Leif Erikson hit the shores of Upper America, the first thing he ran into was a group of massive, hairy, smelly people that were attacking him. That's 960 AD. And if you push the clock forward, everyone seems to think that in 1776 the world stood still and nothing else was happening. But what people fail to realize is that there was a massive smallpox epidemic happening, not only in South America on the West Coast, but also in Canada. And there's actually stories of Bigfoot creatures laying down and dying next to Native Americans up in Canada. So if you think about it in this regard, that when the Europeans came over here and they brought smallpox, not only did it wipe out massive amounts of indigenous population, the great ape is the only primate that is susceptible to smallpox. So if there's great ape DNA in Bigfoot or in Cynocephaly or Dogman, they were susceptible to that. It might have wiped them out. It took a couple hundred years for their numbers to get back. That is completely in the realm possibility. And I think that's probably what happened. And everyone keeps talking about, oh, we're seeing more of them now because there's more deforestation. Rob, the United States of America is 86% intact in forestry from when the first American or the first Europeans got here. So you're familiar with how big the Pacific Northwest and your area is. So people don't realize how much room there really is out there. And if you look at it this way, there has never been more white-tailed deer or deer population anywhere in the world right now than there is today. So if you think about it, when you have more of a food source for a predator, you're going to have a bigger boom in population. So I think that's why we're seeing all these new reports and all these reports and everything else. It's not that they don't have the room. There's plenty of room out there. They've got the food sources. It's just, I honestly think, they're curious. And I think that the technology we have now is, I think there's a lot more going on as far as trail cam footage and drone footage and, it's home security footage. You were talking about having all the cameras at home and not picking up that lady with that. By the way, that would freak the hell out of me. I'm just saying, especially, hey, can I use your shower? Hell no.
Exactly.
Here's some holy water, man. But
exactly.
My point is the technology's there. I think we're getting so much more visual and audio accounts, and I think it's on video that it's one of these things where eventually the truth's going to come out. Whether or not it happens in the United States, in Canada, South America, Russia, Australia, it's eventually someone's just going to be honest. It's the same thing with, I'm a UFO guy. I'm a member of MUFON. And I'm with you on that because I've seen UFOs. I went to college in Florida, and I remember seeing stuff over Tampa Bay that these things would be all over the place. And then I've done research in Nevada. I've been on the backside of Area 51 and Sagebrush Ranch. I've seen things I can't explain out there. So I'm a firm believer that everything's connected. Like we're all dependent on each other. It's a symbiotic relationship with everything on the planet. But this is just one of these things where you just sit there and kind of go, huh? How does this all work? because they're real. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. I believe 100% aliens are real. I believe there's life in outer space. I know for a fact that cryptids exist. And I've seen stuff paranormally that I will tell you right now, in my opinion, ghosts exist. And, I'm a very religious, devout man. I believe in all that, but I also think that, cryptids might be offshoots of the Nephilim. So to me, it's all explainable. It all makes sense. But that's just after 26 years of research and investigating, that's kind of where I put it.
Well, that's actually awesome. And to go back, and we were going to definitely jump into paranormal and UFOs. We're about 20 minutes left in this hour, so we'll do that in hour 2. But I do want to touch on something you said, because once again, and I always say this when I speak to a particular person in a particular field, like I've spoken to other Bigfoot researchers, and some think that they're dimensional, some have other explanations, and we, like you said, no experts, no one knows the true answer. We all have theories, we spitball. But you said something interesting in an angle that I've never heard that makes a lot of sense when you talk about, maybe numbers dwindling due to being affected by, I think you said smallpox. That makes sense. And then the numbers rebounding, and that's an angle that I've never heard. And then to another point that you made there as well, as far as the forest goes, yeah, I've traveled, like I said earlier, before you came in, I'm a driver. I hit the back roads, back channels, and it takes me through places like you're describing. I'm here in California, and I can tell you for sure here, and I drive up to Seattle or Tacoma all the time, and I can tell you once you pass Sacramento and you keep going north up the 5, it's nothing but trees and forestation for many, 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 many miles. So a lot of people, and I said this to I believe Robin Haynes yesterday, that they're people who say that these things don't exist, whether it's cryptids, UFOs. Those people who say Bigfoot don't exist, they don't go into the forest. Like, how would you ever have an encounter or ever be able to collect data to say that if you've never gone into the forest, if you never do? And same thing with UFOs. A lot of those same skeptics never look up. So how could you say what's in the sky or what's not there? So I think there's a lot of that going on. And that's why I like to pick the brain, because you have an interesting perspective, which is the first I've ever heard. So that's pretty awesome.
Oh, I appreciate that. And, Robin's a dear friend of mine. So we have very different views on things. But I love her to death. But it's like I said, I think you can learn something from everyone.
Right.
And Robin's definitely one of those people. But again, we're kind of on the opposite ends of the spectrum. And I'll tell you what, the more I'm around Robin and the more I talk to her and the more stuff I've seen with her, that's why I don't rule anything out, because there could be something there. But it's one of these things where eventually, I honestly believe that the truth will come out. You can only hide the truth for so long. Eventually, the darkness gets repelled by the light, and the truth's going to come out. And I understand. Here's the other thing, though, Rob. You're a smart guy, man. You can't tell me, as someone with a logical insight and intelligence, you can't tell me there's no reasons why all this is covered up. It makes perfect sense to me. You can't go out there, and here's the other thing. I honestly believe we've known about Bigfoot since pretty much the culmination of the United States of America. I'm a huge believer that when Jefferson put, Meriwether Lewis on the trail, and he said, you have to be friends with the natives. It wasn't just to be, hey, how you doing? He wanted to make sure they got back alive. And because they pretty much were the only, indigenous people that knew how to deal with these creatures, because they've been doing it so long. I mean, where I live in North Carolina, the Cherokee Nation have been here for 35,000 years, man. I mean, think about that. Yeah. So they've been here, done that, got the T-shirts and the movie rights. They know everything. Exactly. And let's face it, you're not going to find another group of human beings that know how to deal with nature and the cryptids better than the Native Americans, and I don't care who, that's not anything but the truth. You're dealing with a culture that was just living in harmony with nature. That's one of the things. I don't mean to go on a tangent here, but I'm one of these people that thinks that if we had more of that thought process in our mindset, then things would probably be better in the world. But that's just me.
No, you're right. Tangents are good.
And not pollute your environment or destroy things. That to me is the way to go.
Yeah, tangents are good. Speak your truth, right? Because, you make another great point, and I feel the same way. I feel the indigenous people, the natives, have the key to all of this. If they were the ones here before.
You are 100%. I believe your statement is 100% correct, my friend. I think they have, and you know what? I don't blame them for not telling us, because we'll screw it up. Yeah. We will screw it up. We're just not mature enough as a race right now. And when I say race, I mean humanity for the most part, to handle that. It's probably the same reason why we don't get full disclosure on UFOs and aliens. Because, I mean, honestly, I'm a huge believer in the Thucydides trap, and that's real simple. And a more advanced technological civilization runs into a less advanced technological civilization. You got one or two outcomes: assimilation or decimation. So, would you want us around the universe? I mean, you think humanity's ready to have, the Starship Enterprise going around, warp drive, populating the planets? No. I mean, we can't even get our own stuff together. I mean, look at the world right now. I mean, look at what's going on politically. I mean, we can't even get anything together. Let's not talk about universal, population. Yeah, that's okay. Sure, we really deserve that.
Yeah, we aren't ready on so many levels. Technologically, it looks like we're getting close, but mentally, we're not ready as human beings.
I think there's a group of humanity, and it's not, for me, Rob, it's not about people or culture or religion or anything. It's just about the way people are mentally. I think you've got some people. And I'd like to consider myself that, but obviously you and our buddy Dave and associates like that. We've been preparing ourselves for years for information or the what I call the Great Leak, where all this information is leaked out. But I don't know about you, but I'm of the mind, if I had definite proof that Bigfoot existed, like if I had 100%, boom, there it is. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it, and I could back it with the scientific method. I mean, there's just absolutely no way you could say, "Hey, this is not real." I got to be honest with you, man. I've said this for years, and I kind of stand by it. In fact, the older I get, the more I stand by it. I don't think I'd ever release it, and here's why: because people aren't ready. You got a bunch of hillbillies wanting to kill one in the woods now, and you get. It's just that's the mindset of most people.
Yeah,
it's like put. And I'm a gun guy. I will not go out in the woods without a gun, because we go 8, 9, 10 miles out in the deep forest. You never know what you're going to run into. I'm not worried about getting ripped apart by a dog man or Bigfoot. I'm worried about some bootlegger or someone making meth. That's I say pop shot. That's what our concerns are. Of course, I don't want to. We've got some pretty decent black bears out here too, and some cougars and stuff. But that doesn't worry me. What worries me is, the two-legged hominid out there that, is doing or is up to no good. That's usually why we go out armed. But, it's just one of these things where I don't think there's the masses, shall we say, aren't ready for this kind of knowledge. I think there are groups of people that are. And, and I think that your listeners and the people that are into this, I think they'd be fine handling that kind of information because, they're smart enough to assimilate it over the years. But when you have these people that are just, it's black or white, it doesn't work that way. Everything's at shades of gray. And when you start looking at things logically, you're like, okay, that makes sense. This makes sense. I can see why they don't want us talking about this. But even though, as I said, this goes back to I think it went back to Jefferson. And here's why I say this: if they come out and said, "Oh yeah, there's monsters in the woods," that would have killed westward expansion. We never would have gone through Ohio. It would have stopped. Boom. We'd be the 13 colonies, and that was it. Everything else would be Britain. And let them deal with it. So, I think the powers that be at that point in time gambled with it, and it worked.
Yeah, and see that terrestrial mindset. So that because depending on how you view this, like I say, you were under the theory that potentially these things they live here full time, and that would make sense on why you may not want to put the evidence forward showing that they're real, because you're right. The moment that if they are terrestrial and they are landlocked like we are, then yeah, it's going to be hard for them to get away from people who may go out looking for them to kill them. And so that makes total sense on having that perspective. Now, going with that idea, what is how the timeline as far as historically for Bigfoot? What do you think they're an offshoot of like Neanderthal, or like what is your theory on that?
Rob, that's man, you got good questions, my friend. I personally think they're Nephilim. That to me, I think that makes, and again, and I say that, and there's that part of me that says, well, they're orang pendek, or they're an offshoot of some massive creature that walked around years ago, and there's off. But I honestly think they're Nephilim, and I the older I get, I'm 51 now, but the older I get, the more I start to think that is the best explanation, and that might explain some of the weird stuff that happens. If they have some divine DNA in them, that would explain a few things. But over the millennia, it's been polluted out, and there's probably not a whole lot of that magic left, if you will. And I think that's why we have what we have now. But I think that would explain the intelligence, and that would explain the ability they have to understand their environment. And even if you go and take it a different way and say they're, just offshoots of a massive great ape, technically, if you think about it, they make more sense on this planet than we do. They're designed for this environment. They can swim. They're massive in size and stature. They're strong. They've got night vision. Some of them might have claws. So they're designed to live in this environment perfectly. Look at us, Rob. We need clothes. We got to have our food cooked. Yeah. We're all high maintenance. We can't see at night. We don't have retractable claws. Let's face it, I don't know about you, but there's no way I'm going to be able to do 25, 40 pull-ups and get myself in a tree without even thinking twice with one arm.
Oh, yeah.
Those days are gone. I will say that. Yeah. Those days are gone. So, if you look at it that way, they're more suited to this planet's environment than we are. So if there was a natural evolution, they were probably here first, and maybe we're the interlopers, or maybe we're the invasive species. There's that part too that I look at, but I have to go with the Nephilim. I'm 75% sure that's probably what they are, but again, I'm not going to sit here and say it's 100%. That's it, because the truth of the matter is, the longer I do this, the more I realize I don't know. I've been in the woods where we've found 21 by 11.5-inch footprints, crushing leaf litter, to the point where, it had to have been over 2,000, 2,500 pounds. I can't explain that.
Yeah.
But there it is.
And here's what this is what I do. When we go through that thought process, this is what I do here. I mean, you will have, and it's so strange when you think about it like this, you will have someone. So if you were to bring evidence of a footprint, a picture, cast, or whatever may have you, you'll have people, a subset of people that will look at that and not believe that that is possible. But if you sit here and you think about what we do know that at one point in time, living on this planet, we had huge dinosaurs with 4-foot footprints that we still have, in stone, petrified in stone, and we know that those things were here. We have the bones. So if those things were here, 60-foot lizards, why couldn't there be something else that makes more sense as well, as far as some sort of connection to human beings that may have been an offshoot? That everything is possible. You got dinosaurs, everything else is possible under that. Yeah,
I totally agree. And this is the only time in our specific history, that everything's smaller now. Look at everything's small. Look at woolly mammoths were massive, dinosaurs were massive. You have short-faced bears were massive. You had we had hairy rhinoceroses running around the plains, man.
Yeah,
I mean there was stuff out there that was just plain huge. So you're absolutely right. What makes Gigantopithecus? We know that's real.
right.
What's to say that Gigantopithecus wasn't the shorty of that that ape offshoot?
Exactly.
I mean, we just don't know, and that's the thing that ticks me off the most about modern science is, I understand you have to be able to. I'm a firm believer in the scientific method. You have to be able to back it up. You have to be able to prove it. But what's wrong with actually using a little bit of imagination here? We're talking about stuff that we can't prove or disprove. But if we were in a court of law, all the witnesses and all the testimony and all the evidence that we've collected over the years about Bigfoot or a friend, I call him the fuzzy guy or the fur ball, there's enough to prove these existed. I mean, look at Native Americans in this country alone. In America, there's 150 different names for Bigfoot, and just in the Native American culture alone.
Yeah.
150, Rob, 150 names.
All different tribes.
All different
unrelated.
tribes.
Yeah.
Some that never ran into each other. We're talking Pacific Northwest to the coast of Maine, up in Canada, all of this place, to the south in Texas, the north, New Mexico and Mexico. I mean, everyone's got some kind of hairy man legend. What, you just tell me that just happened? Everyone, that's new. That's just, oh yeah, sure. That's nothing real. And that's what takes me off about, modern science. That's, I'm very much in a belief that the fringe science is probably going to be the ones that answer all the weird questions. But I guess that's the X-Files guy in me. Yeah. But
and I think it's more fear, right? I think deep down it's just more fear of the unknown and just people not wanting to even take the time to acknowledge it, so they ignore it. And I'll just give you a perfect example. So the elusiveness of Bigfoot. So people say, "Oh, I went in the forest, I didn't see anything." There are some. I'll say big cats. There's some big cats. There's some other animals that are very hard to ever even film or capture in the wilderness. They're out there, but they know how to evade us so well that we never see them when we go out there, though they are there. So if we're talking about that, and we know that because maybe we occasionally catch them once in a while on a trail camera or something that proves, okay, that thing is out there. But in most cases, you could go out there 10 times out of 10 and never see it for yourself. And those are like, verified situations where it really aligns with, the whole, the lore and the aura around Bigfoot. So in using common sense and logic, you could kind of figure out that, it's probably plausible that something like this could be out there, and you just will not see it unless it wants you to see it.
And see, I agree with that. You're also talking about something that's highly intelligent. How many people see bears when they're out in the woods? How many people see the wolves, the coyotes? That you're only seeing them if they want you to see you.
Yes.
And they've got the ability. They know you're there before you know they're there.
Exactly.
And, if you extrapolate that on a larger level, to a North American primate that's highly intelligent, but also knows that, hey, those hairless apes are dangerous because they're crazy. And they can't even get along. Why should we even be nice to them? because every time they're around, they're either going to shoot at us or, someone told me real quick, not to segue too much, but, in Texas, you have the big thicket. And someone told me there that does a lot of research. I don't have his permission to use his name, but someone told me there, he goes, the reason why the boogers out there are so nasty is because they're so used to everyone shooting at them. He goes, because, look what you run into up there. You got people running drugs, coyotes, all that stuff, all the stuff no one wants to think about. That's all happening in that area. And, what are they going to do first? They're going to shoot first and ask questions later. So, I mean, if you get that kind of behavior pattern, how are you going to react when you run into someone else? The first thing you're going to think is, oh, crap, this thing's going to want to kill me. So, no wonder why they avoid us.
Right. And I think that's instinctual across a lot of different animals and species around the world. Whales, even at this point, you got orcas out there that now have stopped being nice and start attacking humans and boats. I saw
that. Like that. You see that new species or whatever they're saying, it's a new species of orca, and it's like I don't blame them.
That's what I mean. I mean,
man. Look what we do. I mean,
they single us out as bad guys because it's in a lot of cases we are generally, whenever contact is made, if they're smart enough, they have learned that it usually doesn't end well when you come across human beings, because they either hunt you, they want to shoot you because they're scared, or bringing some sort of harm in most situations. And most species around the world kind of identify with that and try to stay away from us. So
you're 100% right. Look, if I was a killer whale and I saw humans coming, I'd be gone.
Exactly.
They're gonna either put some kind of tracker on you, which has got to interfere with you somehow, because it's not part of the natural world, and it's going to be like a blight on your body, and it's going to slow you down or ruin your aerodynamics, or they're going to capture you and put you in a tank and feed your smelly fish all day, and then you're not supposed to do what your natural instincts are. These people at SeaWorld and these places like that, they're nuts, man. Those people, I've had people say, oh, you're crazy, go out in the woods. And I think to myself, you know who's crazy? These people jumping in a tank with a wild animal that they think they can tame. That's highly intelligent. And you know what? I'd probably say a little bit pissed off that they've been taken out of their world.
Yes.
Put in a fish tank.
Well, and then we're about to go to break right now, but I'll kind of leave it with this. I mean, just think about in the animal world, or the lore of human beings, the stories they tell amongst themselves based on historical data of interactions with humans, how this particular part of their family never came back. They went across a human and they were never seen again. And the orcas are intelligent, and other animals are as well, and they communicate, and I'm sure they speak about the unsavory things that human beings have done to them historically. And Bigfoot, being, like you say, is an intelligent being for sure, is gonna already know this because it's been around and seen humans for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it has always been violence and destruction, and it's never been good. So I mean, like I said, when we talk logically, then it all makes sense. But what we're going to do real quick, Christian, we're already at the end of hour one. We're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break. So if you need to do anything, you're open to do that. And everybody else, you guys just kick back, because we are going to go ahead and get back in hour two, jump into some paranormal, some ETs, and all sorts of other talk right here, Spaced Out Radio. You guys don't go anywhere.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, and we're clear. I'm going to go ahead and play a commercial, Christian, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes.
All right, my friend. I'll see you then.
See you in a moment here. You guys don't go anywhere. Yes. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. This is the after hours version. Dave Scott is not with us right now, but will be with us in hour 3. So make sure you guys don't go anywhere. As we go ahead and get back into this, I just want to say what's up to all of our space travelers out there. Consider joining the club. You can join our SOR Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 a month by joining our Patreon. Consider doing that. We're going to go ahead and jump back here in hour 2 with our guest for the night, Christian McLoud, who is a paranormal cryptid researcher, over 20 years of experience doing this. And Christian, I want to go ahead and jump right back into this. You are founder, director of the Asheville Cryptid Society. If you wouldn't mind letting us know what that's all about and kind of talk to us about that.
Well, thanks for mentioning that. We started off, I was living in Asheville, and I do a lot of work with Joshua P. Warren. He's pretty much a family member. And I was actually having dinner with him, George Norrie, and Tom Daneheiser. And we were talking, and they told me, we were having some conversation about cryptids and other things, and I told them I was always into it, and I started talking about some of my own research, and 3-4 hours go by, and all three of them kind of looked at me and goes, "Why don't you start your own thing?" And I was of the mind that no one would care what I thought. I was like, who cares what I think? I'm just some, guy from, Maine that has had a few interesting sightings, and they kind of convinced me to start doing my own thing. And that's when Asheville Cryptid and Paranormal came about. And then we started getting calls outside of Asheville. So we became American Cryptid and Paranormal about 6 years ago. And for some reason, sometimes that just doesn't go on all the paperwork. If you go to American Cryptid and Paranormal Society.com and kind of talk about that. But the reason why we changed it to American Cryptid and Paranormal is because we were losing stories and research because people thought we were just localized to one area. And that's kind of where all that happened. And honestly, without those three guys, Josh, Norrie, and Tommy D, I call him Tommy D, I never would have been coming and doing, I would have kept it all to myself, basically. But they were just so influential to me, and they told me point blank, you can do this. Because I was always of the mind, I was like, listen, if I was going to do this, I'd like to finish up my PhD, and that way I'd have, a little credibility. I've got an advanced master's in education, and, I'm not too far away from a PhD in American history. And I figured if I do that, and, that made me more credible and blah, blah, blah. And they all kind of three said to me, said, what, you're just going to be wasting time. They didn't say wasting time in education, but they said you'd be wasting time from, putting your research and your thought process out there. Mm-hmm. And so, I remember that night as plain as anything. And the next day is when I had an LLC. So that's actually how it all happened. I mean, I wish it was a cooler story, but it's not.
No, that's how you get it going. And then the research takes you from there. And I guess with research in mind, obviously you're doing research in the field, but are you also taking in accounts from other experiencers, or are you doing a little bit of both?
We you know what, Rob, we talk to everyone, Rob. We talk. I'm a firm believer you can learn something from everyone. And unfortunately, when I got my 800 number, 1-800-329-4851, by the way, I used to get a lot of interesting phone calls, 2 or 3 in the morning, but that's just kind of, you got to learn the ebb and flows, man. It's just one of these things. And I've talked to some people that are very much out there, my friend. I used to get a phone call from a guy. I just used to call him Chester. I don't even know what his real name was, but he kept telling me he would introduce me to Bigfoot if I drove out to the middle of nowhere with a case of Jack Daniels. And but I would get that phone call every Friday night about 2:30 in the morning. And, it's just one of those things. So you get used to it, but you talk to everyone. It's when I do events. I've been lucky enough to open up the Marion Bigfoot event in the last couple of years, or be part of that, and Spruce Pine UFO event. And Robin, I did an event for Robin in Nebraska recently, and it is just so cool to be able to talk to people all over the country that have had these encounters. And when you run into a guy like Dave, you can't help but love him. He's just, I feel like I've known him forever. And so it's just, I've been very, very blessed with the people that I've run into, and you're included in that, my circle too. If you're a friend of Dave's, you're a friend of mine. That's just how it's going to be. I love the guy. In fact, I'm looking at a picture of him and me right now on my desk. And it's one of these things where you meet some of the coolest people doing this, and I just feel very blessed to have the ability to meet all these people and talk to them. But if it weren't for the cryptid and the paranormal stuff, I would never have met half of these people. Yeah. But everyone's always got some, even when you're up on stage and they're asking questions or something like that, you always know who's going to come back and want to talk to you more, because they're like, hey, I saw this, or I saw that, or what does this mean? What does this mean? And, and I'll be honest with them. Sometimes, I'll be right there with you. I have no idea, but damn, that is cool. I wish I could help you, and I'll give you my card if I can make it out there. I'll be more than happy to. And the other thing we do, Rob, and I don't know if most people know this, we don't charge people to investigate. Wow. If somebody has we have never charged anyone a dime. And here's why. I'm a firm believer that God put us here to help each other out. And, that's what we do. I've got some close associates. I work with two people mainly most of the time, Christina the Brain and my buddy Tiny. And, Tiny, I love Tiny. Tiny's 7 foot from the hills of Tennessee. Wow. Probably the most intelligent, articulate man you'll ever meet, but he's got that real Tennessee going on here.
Yeah.
And, and then Christine the Brain, she's like, one of her degrees is like math or something. I mean, she's just brilliant. So, between the three of us, we've got a pretty good articulation on who or what we were going to talk to or what we're going to investigate. But we've never charged anyone a cent to do that. And I wouldn't take money. You know what? I'll take a cheeseburger. Yeah. Go buy me something, give me a cheeseburger. But I'm here to help you. I'm not here to take advantage of you. And then we do that both with the paranormal and the cryptid. We've been very lucky to have relationships with religious officials, Wiccan, light and dark, pretty much every group of facet you can imagine in the cryptid and paranormal world. And one of the reasons for that is because we don't judge, man. Who the hell am I to judge anyone? I'm a guy that goes out looking for monsters in the woods. How normal is that, So I think that's one of the reasons why we've been very lucky with the people we deal with, is because we're not going to sit there and judge anyone. And I will say this, I have seen that. I have seen people do that in the cryptid and paranormal world. I've seen people just judge other people. It's like, what are you doing, man? Who are you to say this or that? Or, you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what they've seen. They might be explaining something in the only way they can. And maybe that's not exactly the way it shook out, but that they're trying to give you the most information they can. And you're going to sit there and belittle them or rip them up. Or if it doesn't go along with your thought process, it can't be true. And I will say this, that kind of transitions me into the area where the people in the cryptid world, and you've been doing this a long time, Rob, you're a smart guy. People in the cryptid world cannot get along. It's very rare that they will get along. I was just going to ask you that. When you can get along with some guys, you don't let go of them. And it's like Dave is one of those guys. Dave and I don't agree on everything, and probably never. But I'll take a bullet for Dave. I love him to death. But Dave's one of these guys. The Brain loves him. Everyone that I've ever met that knows him, he's just one of these guys. Everyone loves him, and that's how I want to be. Associated with people like him. I don't want to be associated with people that just pick fights because they disagree with someone. And we're talking about things we can't prove or disprove. So what makes you think you're the end all be all authority? I've got a real good buddy of mine. I will use his name. I don't know if you ever heard Tim Kumbo Baker.
No, I haven't, but I'll look him up for sure.
Tim is a former NASA scientist, brilliant man. He grew up with boogers on his farm in Alabama when he was a kid. I mean, he's just been around him his whole life. And in my opinion, he's probably what I would consider an expert. But he won't go by expert. He'll be the first one to tell you there's no such thing as an expert. And this is a man who worked for NASA. I mean, this is a guy who's, he's investigated. I think he's got 60 years of investigation on his belt. So here's a guy that could claim that throne, but he won't do it because he knows there's too much out there that he doesn't know. And that's the kind of way we want to emulate that kind of thought process, because you can learn something from anyone. I'm not that much of a snob, or I don't think I can learn something from anyone. Everyone's got something to teach, and all you have to do is just, be open to it. And when it comes to the cryptid and paranormal world, you can learn something from anyone. And that's why we're so open to talk to people, is because, everyone's got a different experience. Everyone's got a different outlook. You and I see the same thing. We may interpret it differently, but you and I both know what we saw.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes us a little bit different than some other organizations out there, is because I'm not going to sit there and tell the guy, well, you're full of it, or you're crazy, or have another one, pal. We wouldn't do that, because if someone's got the guts to call you and say, hey, listen, this is what I saw, I think I'm losing it. They just want a sounding board, man, because you're dealing with something that, let's be honest, if you go around and tell a bunch of people, I think I saw Bigfoot, they're going to look at you like you're crazy. Yeah. It's just the society we live in. They're not going to be open to, oh, hey, that's possible. But they're going to look at you like you're nuts. And, so when you can be a sounding board to an individual that's like, okay, I don't know if I'm crazy or not, but this is what happened. And you tell them straight, no, you're not crazy. You just saw something you didn't think existed. And, you just put their mind at ease a little bit. What's wrong with that? We're not trying to hurt anyone. We just want to help people. And we do that with the cryptids, the paranormals, the UFO, anything weird. Anytime we can help someone, that's what we do. And I think if more people were focused on helping instead of trying to make a quick buck, you and I know, I guarantee all fair, if you and I were to talk right now, there'd be 5 or 6 people you and I are both thinking of right now that are just, to me, they're just not nice people, because they're just going for money. That's all it is. You
are right on point. Here's what I was going to say to that, because you are like reading my mind at the moment, because I was just about to say that. For one, just to go back, that it appears to be so much, and maybe it seems to be mainly in the Bigfoot community, where you have different research organizations that don't, for whatever reason, share the research with others. Like, that's what you should do.
They refuse, and then they want to charge you to be part of their organization.
And that's the second part. So I was just going to say that as well, that any learning something from anyone, which is a key thing that I say all the time, and it's in life, period, not just this. But then when you apply it to this, the ones that think that way are the ones that are doing it for the right reasons, like yourself. And the ones that combat that or want to hold the research are the ones that are in it for the dollar. And, to me, if there was a way to kind of weed those people out, then we would have, we would have an organization full of people that want to do the right thing and get to the answers. And, that's a big thing with me. So I'm glad to hear you say that, because I feel like you should be in this for the right reasons, to benefit and help the rest of us, the rest of humanity, understand the world that we live in. So bravo to you for that.
I mean, Rob, I'll be 100% square with you, man. I have no problem, putting it all on the table. I lose between $5,000 and $9,000 a year just in travel and expenses on the cryptid and paranormal world, with equipment, road time, hotels, driving. Like, even when I'm very lucky in the fact that I have a good enough reputation where I'll get phone calls. People want me to do their symposiums. They want me to do their events, and I'm going to be there. But realistically, the money's not fantastic. And if I'm lucky, all my expenses will be covered, but it still costs me to go out there because I got to take time off my real job, and then my other stuff goes up. But I've never once turned anyone down because I'm honored that they would have me.
Right.
And that's the way I look at it. But when you have people saying, I want $5,000 for an hour or something crazy to that, it's like, what are you doing, dude? That's not how are you helping people?
Right. You're
Or
helping
all you're doing
yourself.
is pushing a book that
Yeah.
I'm not ragging on anyone. Listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. I've had people approach me to write a book. I'm 5 chapters in, and I've been doing it for 2 years. So that tells you how much I'm really into it. But if my book was to sell, I'd probably sell a copy to myself, my mom, my dad, and my girlfriend, and some of my pals. That'd be about it. Because the truth of the matter is, it's a very niche area. So you're only gonna, I can't compete with Meldrum or anything like that. I mean, that guy's, he's plastered all over the place. But I'm not about doing that either. That's not what my goal is. I'm like you. I want to help people. I want people to understand these things are real, and they are out there. Are all of them good? No. Are all of them bad? No. I think a lot of them, they have the same characteristics as humans. There's good and bad, but it's just one of these things. That's why we call it the paranormal.
Yeah.
We're not sure what they are and how they are, but here's what I've experienced. My expertise, if you want to use that word, and I don't like using it, but my experiences have taught me this, and if I was to write a book, that would be kind of how it would be. But you're also talking to a guy. I'll go out and buy $500 worth of T-shirts and hand them out and just give them to people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my accountant's like, "How are you going to make money?" I don't care about that. It's just when I see a kid walking by with a Crypted guy shirt on, to me that's worth more than money.
Exactly.
Or you can make someone smile by handing them a Bigfoot T-shirt. It's just cool. I mean, that's kind of the way we do things. But when we obtain our research, when we get down to it, I'd say my organization, we're pretty thorough. I mean, we are very scientific method. We go out to these places. We take pictures. We open up a file on everyone. We don't use their real names. We come up with if Rob, if you were to call me right now and say, "Hey, I've got this," your name would never be out there and it'd never be in a computer. I'm not gonna lie, we've been hacked. We've had issues I've been on the phone on a conference, on a Zoom conference with 4 different people in 4 different states all at the same time. And one of them out in your area code, by the way. And we've all been hacked at the same time, watching computer files be deleted off of our computers all at the same time. So, when we do an event, it all gets a code name, and we never take anyone's real name. We take an area. And it's because I don't want people to lose their anonymity, because I've had some very, very respectable, important people get in touch with me and say, "Hey, this is what happened," but I don't want anyone to know who this is coming from. And that's not a problem for me, because we don't do that. I'll get a phone number and that's it, and then the phone number, I actually have a phone book. I don't even keep it in the phone anymore because of the problems we've had. I mean, sometimes there's no school like the old school. I mean, we write stuff down.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it sounds mundane, but
You can't hack
I
that.
don't keep important stuff on a computer anymore. We've just had too many issues. We just bought a printer, and we just started printing out files because I'm afraid something might happen to them. Because it's every couple of years or so we seem to have these issues where we'll lose a computer or something will crash, and all of a sudden, everything's gone. So, it all kind of coincides with what we do, though. I mean, after you've done this for a while, and I know what I'm talking about because you've been doing it for a while. When people say, "Oh, hey, that's ridiculous. That doesn't happen." Well, it does happen because it has happened, and I've witnessed it. So I mean, and I think anyone that's done this for more than 4 or 5 years, they're going to say the same thing to you. Robin and I have known each other for a few years, and we've had stories that almost identical from things that have happened. Dave, same thing. Most of the other Bigfoot guys, Jim Myers. Jim Myers is one of the greatest guys in the world. Same stuff's happened to him. So I mean, it just happens, and you just got to get used to it and deal with it. I think, to me, that's a sign of success.
Yeah.
You're doing something right.
Now, let me ask you this. So we got about 5 minutes till we'll take a break here. Within your research, because obviously there's all sorts of different cryptids, and recently, and like I say, I'm being introduced to them as I go. So I did recently an appearance on someone's show, and I'll mention their name, Star Fox with Midnight Lycanthropy. And he had me on to talk about Dogman, and we kind of kicked around some ideas on Dogman. So shout out to him. But what when you look at cryptids and through the research that you've done, which one of the cryptids out there really intrigues you the most?
Man, I'm simple. I'm a huge Bigfoot fan. I have never physically seen Bigfoot face to face. I have seen it through tree branches. I've been growled at, but I have physically seen Dogman 3 separate times. And there's just something about that guy. People say, oh, they're, the cryptid terrorists. They just enjoy scaring you. And that could be very true. I think Dark Waters was the first one to coin that phrase. And, I've always been a fan of his. I like his storytelling, but that's what he is. He's a storyteller, and he's the best at what he does. I agree with, I'll definitely say that. But when you're out there and these things are, 10 feet away from you and you're getting growled at, and we did a TV show. I think These Woods Are Haunted. I think that was what it was called. And, they were kind of trying to reenact what happened. And they did a great job, but it's not as terrifying as it really is when you're there. So there isn't a doubt in my mind. I know for a fact these things exist because I've seen them 3 times. And I got to say, I'm going to go, Bigfoot's always going to be the one that got me into everything, but I'm just fascinated by Dogman. I'm fascinated by him. And Cynocephali is going throughout the historic records. I mean, Alexander the Great allegedly hired a mercenary group of Cynocephali. I mean, there's been Cynocephali islands out past India. I mean, it's all throughout the recorded record of history for humanity. And I think the same thing befell them that happened to, Sasquatch. I think they got sick and their numbers dwindled, and it just took this much time to get back to normal. Once more, I refer to the Native American folklore. I mean, they've got 7 or 8 different words for Dogman, and there's different tribes that I think that Dogman's the hero or the villain, but there are also ones that think either Bigfoot's the hero or the villain. So, I mean, it's very interesting. And I live I'm pretty much on the Appalachian Trail, Rob, where I live. And the amount of stories I get now are more Dogman related than Bigfoot related. It's like he's taken over this area.
Yeah, what I hear from just different people I talk to, I hear that Dogman is both unapologetic and vicious. And I would have to ask, and I've asked this before, in we have about 30 seconds here, so give a quick answer if you can, with the Bigfoot versus Dogman. If they were to meet in a forest, who do you think walks away?
Bigfoot
by far.
It's just the amount of the power. I mean, I've seen tree branches 6 inches solid white oak where you can see the friction burns in them just snapped. And listen, Dogman is not going to be an easy win, but I just think if Bigfoot got a hold of you, that's all he needs to do is he just needs to get one hand on your throat or something like that. You're done. That's my personal belief.
Okay, well, that's cool. And what we're gonna do, guys, is jump right into this break as we come back with our guests here, Chris and McLoud, and we're gonna jump into some UFOs and paranormal as well. So you guys don't go anywhere. And then remember, Dave Scott, Mr. Dave Scott, and Tim James will be joining us via cellular communication in hour 3. So you guys stick around, don't go anywhere. Okay, we are clear. All right, so we have a 5-minute break, so we can sit here and kick it for a minute. Or if you have something you need to do, you can go ahead and run.
Hey, Rob, I feel like I've known you for years, man. So I'm just gonna sit and hang out with you.
Yeah, and man, I'm glad that that's the case. So people do end up saying that, and I think we'll, obviously have to talk, because right now I'm obviously filling in for Dave tonight. But I do run the weekend show, so Saturdays and Sundays.
Hey, look, man, I'm gonna give you. You want to write my number down right now? I'll give it to you. And anytime I can help you.
Did you get an email from me? I sent you an email.
I believe I did. Okay. Yeah.
Send it through there. That way we don't dox you here and the whole community starts calling you.
Well, like I said, that's why I gave out that 800 number. I'll just give you my real number.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and then I'll text you and you'll have mine.
Yeah, 'cause I'd like to have yours too, because like I said, I'm one of these people. When I like someone, I like, it's just boom. You're gonna.
Yeah. It's one of those things, and I'll tell you, that's the same way I feel as well. And it's always when you like-minded people who are doing this for the same reasons, usually that's the feeling that you get. And that's what I'm noticing, the more and more.
Well, I'm not one of these guys that's trying to badmouth people, Rob, but there's so many people just trying to make a quick buck.
Yeah.
They make stuff up. It's so, when you get someone saying, oh, there's a government guy that calls me and tells me about all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. No, that's not happening. You're lying. Prove it. And then, he was going to be on, but I can't now because, it's just stuff like that drives me nuts. I just can't stand that stuff. It bugs me because it's like they're just trying to rip people off.
Here's the thing with that. I don't have any problem. I'm one that believes that those people should be called out. The fraudsters, the embellishers, the what they call grifters, who are just in it for the cash. Those people have to be weeded out. You know what I mean? Because when you have people from the outside that look into this, those are the people they see. Yeah, and therefore they give this whole community a bad rap because they're the ones on stage or they're the ones getting the spotlight and not the real people who are in it for the right reasons. You know what I mean? So I have no problem with calling people out. I encourage it, actually.
Well, see, I'm known for it. And there's I just don't like using names because, I don't want that to come back. But there's a group of them out there, and they all kind of tend to cling together or defend each other. But all they're doing is defending their pocketbooks. That's all they're doing, man. And it's just drives me nuts because they're coming up with this crazy stuff. And here's the thing. These things exist. I know these things exist. After talking to some of these yabos, people are going to get hurt because they don't go out. They don't know what they're doing. I grew up in the woods. I've been doing this for 26 years. I'm a hick from Maine. I know. We used to go camping weeks on end when I was a kid. We didn't have, cable or anything like that. We were out in the woods. We were out fishing. We did stuff like that. So that was always, kind of home to me out there. So when you get these guys that, these Monday morning quarterbacks that live in a city, and they're going to tell you about cryptid activity. I mean, like you're a truck driver. Nobody sees more crap in the world than you guys. Nobody. You guys see it all. Right. I love talking to truckers because truckers see it all.
Yeah, they're out at all nights of the night, times of the night.
When you're driving at 4 a.m. on the road, and you're going up Route 5 to, Sacramento or you're going up to Seattle, you're going to see, you're going to see stuff. There isn't a day. It's not when. It's if and when. It's not if, but when, and not when, but how soon.
Another resource is as well in the same aspect are police officers, right?
Oh,
So
I have talked
after-
to my friend. I've talked to police off the record in North Carolina, troopers off the stuff they have told me. I pretty much had a guy tell me point blank, his car got destroyed around him by a dog man. That he basically ended up shooting a 12 gauge. His 12 gauge, he couldn't get it loose, so he just ended up racking one through the roof just to get the noise to scare it. And his boss's boss comes on site 2 hours afterwards. They give him a 2-week vacation and tell him it was a bear attack, and that's all he needs to know. And 2 days later, they drop his cruiser off to him. It was like brand new. He said he even had to check the VIN. They had completely redone the whole. I mean, just stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they replaced everything. I mean, it's crazy stories.
Yeah.
I spoke to a guy that, you know, he called the cops and he told the cops some big monkey was stealing garbage out of my trash, and I got him on film. That was in Black Mountain. I pulled up to his place. He was being moved, and I got escorted off the property.
Wow.
I mean, so stuff like that happens. And this is the stuff I don't really talk about because people are like, that doesn't happen. I'm like, oh, the hell it doesn't. It happens all the time. You just got to pay attention. You know, why would the Parks Department close this, you know, the parkway with no weather issues? 70 degrees out is beautiful. There's no snow. There's no nothing, no ice, no rain, nothing. But they're going to close. And then you find out, you know, the day later there was a Bigfoot sighting where a family was camping or having a picnic, and something just came out of the woods, grabbed its, you know, picnic basket and ran. You know, these things happen all the time. You just never hear about it.
Yeah. All right. We're coming back from break right now, Christian. So, all right. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio After Hour. We're calling it After Hours. Filling in for Dave Scott tonight. Number 2, we're on the back half of the hour. We have about 25 minutes left here with Chris and McLoud. You got any questions, make sure you get them in caps, you get them in there, and I will definitely ask these. As we jump back in, kind of, you know, we've been on cryptids for a little bit here. I do want to get your perspective here on UFOs and paranormal. What type of experiences have you had with either one of those, if you have any to speak to?
UFOs I've seen. I'm just a firm believer in those. Actually, my mother was associates with Betty and Barney Hill. She actually knew them. And she now my mom, I love my mom to death. My mom doesn't believe in anything but aliens. Doesn't believe in ghosts, doesn't believe in cryptids, but she'll tell you aliens are real because she talked to Betty and Barney Hill. So I've always kind of been fascinated with them. In fact, I was just lucky enough to get some of their information that was never released, and we've been going through that. And I just did a UFO convention in Spruce Pine talking about that, and that actually got pretty interesting. So I was very, very happy with that. And as far as paranormal, I have seen apparitions in some investigations, and I have seen things that I can't explain. But it's not like it was hanging out. It's like one of these things you see at the corner of your eye. It's always quick, but I've seen that a couple of times. And I have seen things move unexplainably. That's pretty much paranormal. That's it. I've never had an encounter with anything that's ever spoken or communicated with us. We've used ghost boxes and things like that in the past, but the truth of the matter is with those, I'm still on the fence with that stuff.
Okay, real quick, we have a viewer that's about to has to go leave for the night, and he definitely is one of our has a question real quick I want to ask you before he leaves,
Sure.
Which is, Christian, have you investigated the Penobscot Panther? I'm probably pronouncing it wrong.
No, but I know what you're speaking of, and that's technically that'd be pretty much a wampus cat, and that area, no, I have not, but we do have wampus cats in North Carolina, and I have investigated those, and I've seen some tracks that were just ridiculous, and they were definitely feline with the retractable claws, but I have not. I'm totally willing to. I just never really got a report on that.
Okay, all right.
Specific area.
And that's cool. And T-Bone. So we got your question there. We appreciate also your support tonight with your awesome super chat. Want to go ahead and do that. Put those up. So T-Bone, appreciate you. And any other questions, definitely put them in the chat. But jumping back in, to so the paranormal UFOs. So Betty and Barney Hill, for instance, you were speaking about one of the things that I always point to is, have you ever seen the regression they went through, the regression video?
Oh yeah, I've seen the tapes.
Insane.
That man went through hell.
You can tell, you can feel it.
And you know what's funny? He was the post office. He was a postman. So he's a former World War II vet. This guy, he had nothing but credential. He's just a nice guy. Everyone that knew him loved him. I know exactly where he lived in Portsmouth. I mean, he's just the nicest guy in the world. He was a very popular postman. People loved him in his route in Boston. And you can tell you're 100%. He went through hell in those regressions. She freaked out. They've never been able to identify the substance that was on her dress. And 50 years later, it came back. It's still some kind of radioactive isotope they can't find out. It's not. It's just that. What does that tell you? And the biggest thing for me, Rob, is when they drew our galaxy from a different viewpoint. No one ever talks about that. It's like they're like the OGs for this stuff. I mean, they're incredible people. I think their niece has pretty much picked up the torch from when they left. But I was lucky enough to get some of their original information that was never released, and I'm still going through that. And let me tell you, Rob, the FBI, the CIA, everyone was in on this. Air Force, Army, everyone was in on this. And they were all acting like it's no big deal. Then why is every agency we have, every alphabet agency, opening up a file on this? And they all have correspondence. I mean, I've got it. You can't say it doesn't exist. I've read it, and it's Betty and Barney Hill both communicating and correcting, Stan Friedman, he's involved. I mean, there's everyone. I mean, it's one of these things where it was huge, and people don't realize how big it was. People don't realize that when they got abducted, that was not the first time they had run into it. They had actually called the Portsmouth Police Department because there was an object above their house. One of the relatives was driving to Boston. Same thing happened. And then when the car, so there was definitely a pattern here, but when you start doing the background and you get really into it, it's like there's a whole lot more there. Because most people don't even realize that they had previous issues, and I'm from New England originally. I've been right to where their abduction zone was. And to this day, when I say there's nothing there, there's nothing there. This is one of these places where, in the old Aliens in space, they can't hear you scream. This is one of those there that is totally 100% plausible for that. You would not hear anything. There's nothing out there. It's all woods. They didn't even have streetlights out there. So, think about that. If you talk about a place to grab someone for a couple hours, that was it. And everyone forget they had a dog with them too. The dog hid in the car. The dog hid under the seat. I'm a dog owner and I've got a Boston Terrier. So if my Boston was freaked out enough, and he had a 57 Chevy, he'd have plenty of room to go under there. But they both talk about the dog going under the seat hiding when these creatures came out. That you can't, the detail and everything. And you're right, when you see him regress in those hypnosis videos,
yes,
forget about it, man. That man went through something.
And here's the thing, and you're right, the government, I fully feel like, knows about all this stuff.
Of course.
And looking at like the MK Ultra, looking at the remote, this Project Stargate and all that stuff. So it shows that they definitely know about a portion of what we call the phenomena, and it just opens it up to them knowing about the rest of it. You have to assume that they do. There, and I like to lean on historical cases. I always say history is something you can tap into to kind of, weigh against experiences that you have in the future and in cases that may come across the table. And I think, just if you picked 2 or 3 cases that really brought it home to kind of say these things are here, this is a real thing, it would have to be Betty and Barney Hill regression. Also, the aerial school phenomenon, the encounter at the schoolyard, also the Westall, where you had all these people that saw the same thing, drew the same thing. They were separated and they all drew the exact same thing.
Those kids, yeah, I know exactly what those kids. Yeah,
I mean, come on.
I was watching a Netflix episode on that, or Netflix. They had a real good documentary on that. And I will say this: I agree with everything you said there, but I'm still going to throw this in. And I don't know. I know everyone says it. Roswell, 47.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And when you read, have you ever read the book The Day After Roswell by Colonel Philip J. Corso?
Nope. Need to write it down.
I am telling you, that book blew. I've been reading that. I've probably read that book 10 times. But every time I read that book, it's just one of these things where it's just everything he says has come to fruition. And I think he wrote it in 97 and he's passed away. But he was the guy that actually gave all the technology to different companies. He explained the methodology of why they did what they did, and everything this guy has ever said has been 100% accurate. And I think that's and this is a guy who was doing the secret. I mean, his whole military record. I mean, boom, he puts it all out there. But he even in the book says the reason why we had to play ball with him is because we couldn't defeat him. This is I think I would actually say I think part of his book was probably the basis for the X-Files. Because it was that realistic, or part of his story was. I think the book came out after the TV show, but he's been around a long time. But I'm sure whoever interviewed him, Chris Carter, had to have seen something with him in it, because everything in that show was basically it's very, very reminiscent of what he talks about in his book. And the thing that scares most people is like, there's no control over these things. We can't defend ourselves against them. The technology's too advanced.
Yeah.
If they're going to do what they want to do, you can't negotiate with someone that's got all the cards.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
You are right.
And I think that's why reverse engineering Roswell became such a determinant factor, is because we were looking to defend ourselves. I think we've known about UFOs probably 100% since World War II, the Foo Fighters, things like that. But I think it also might have been something to do with Nazi Germany. If you look at the technology they had compared to what we had,
right?
It took us till the early 70s to get the U-boat tech they had. Think about that. 30 years after, they were 30 years more advanced than us. And we're the United States of America, man.
Right.
I mean, we're ahead. But they were more advanced than us. And look at the way they had the V2 rocket. I mean, von Braun, where did you get all this stuff? I mean, von Braun goes on record and say we got it from aliens. So who's to say they weren't, picking sides or doing something, interference? But that, again, these are just, my thoughts on it. But I think Roswell is probably the defining moment for UFOlogy, simply because that's where we realized if we didn't start figuring out how this stuff worked, we were either going to be food, slaves, or dead.
And I'll add to that. Roswell, in my perspective on it, is especially when I speak to skeptics or people who there's a subset of people who have to hear confirmation from the government. They just have to hear it from them, or else it's not a thing. And to those people, I always point back to Roswell and say they admitted it. That was the initial story. They said that they recovered a crash disk. So they said that. They already said it. okay, yeah, the next day they came back with the cover story because they realized what they just did. And I call that Roswell the original cover up. And then the story that they came out with in I think like in 1994, where they said, oh, it wasn't actually a weather balloon. It was I forgot the project, the name of
It
the
was
project.
the dummies. It was
Yeah,
they
the
were dropping
dummies.
the dummies on. That was during Clinton. Yeah, I remember.
So it was the cover up of the cover up. So
But
with
that's
all
what
that
they do,
being
man.
said, they already admitted it.
But that's what they do. They cover, and you know what? And I'm not gonna listen. I'm not gonna bash our government. They do what they feel is necessary. And honestly, there's a big part of me, Rob, that believes what they're doing is, they're actually doing it for our benefit, simply because,
Yeah.
again, is humanity ready to know that? Oh, by the way, we're not alone in the universe. What does that do to religion? Think about that. Now, I'm a man of faith, but I'm also enlightened enough to believe that God made everything. So if there's life out there, God made it.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think once if people could wrap their head around that, there'd probably less issues with that particular topic. But I think that's one of the main things that keeps everything at bay is because they're worried about uprooting religion. I don't think that's, I just don't see that happening. I think maybe, 40 years ago, that might have been an issue. Now, no way. Because again, God's infinite. God can make whatever he wants, So I'm a firm believer that God made the universe. I think our timelines and what we think time is totally different than, the creator. But I think that's where we run into these problems is our timelines are different.
Yeah, I definitely think there, I see both sides of that. And I do, one side is, oh, they're keeping the secret from us. They don't want us to ascend, which could be partially true. But then I also see the other side that they just don't know what to do. And they know that in the moment of disclosure, things can turn for the worse as far as society goes. So I see that side of it. And then them understanding that we don't have the ability to defeat these things. And that's when I think about that thought process, that's where I go into, because we think about the black projects, the black budget, the things that are being developed, reverse engineering of UFOs and technologies. And my whole thing is that, okay, I hope that they're taking some of this black budget money and developing some sort of planetary defense, just in case, because they may know already that some of these things are threats. And I think that if we're going to look at it that way, then I think maybe that might be the angle that they're taking. Like, how can we defend the planet and things of that nature? So I can see both sides of it, and I'm always middle of the road. And truthfully, wherever the evidence leads me is where I'll go. So I could definitely see both sides of that conversation.
I mean, yeah, I'm 100% with you. And it's the sad thing is, if people would actually, let themselves calm down, absorb the information, and then, be logical about it, I think most people would step in line where you and I have the same thought process, because it's not if you're damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Is there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
And if you're the powers that be and you admit the fact that, okay, there's these creatures out there that are, 25, 35, 45,000 years more advanced than us. They've got, ray guns, warp speed. And by the way, they're not the nicest things in the world. And they can break a human body down into biological matter that, they can sustain themselves on. Then what's the difference between us and cows at that point,
Right.
So, and people aren't going to handle that well. I wouldn't handle that well, because I'm like, what? I don't want to be a hot dog. I don't want to be someone's steak sandwich. But,
exactly.
But if that's the alternative, and it is the Thucydides trap to the nth degree, because that's a situation you can't win. And I'm with you. I'm praying, my friend, that they've been taking these trillions of dollars that we're in debt and building some kind of, Tony Stark planetary shield to defend us against whatever's out there. Because realistically, we should have it anyway.
We should.
We don't even know. We don't even know what's out there, or if we do, we're not prepared for it. What makes, how much more advanced are we to defend the planet than we were, in the 40s?
Right.
I mean, we're still using nuclear bombs. If there's the USS Enterprise out there, keeping an eye on our part of the galaxy, I don't know where it is. I've never seen it. I don't know if it's real. I run in these, circles where everyone's like, oh, there's a deep space program or this. Listen, that's fine and dandy, but I need to see it before I believe that.
And see, I'm under the impression that, as we got about 5 minutes to go here, that I think it was shuttle mission. I think it was STS-75. It's the one where the camera on the shuttle you see the Earth, and then
you saw that. I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
the object come in, and then it darts away, and as it darts away, something is shooting out of the atmosphere. Now, hopefully, I'm not saying that we should be engaging these things like that, but if that's some of the technology that we're working on to defend the planet, then that's great. And I'll say with this as well is that, I've come to find out in this community, there's a large group of people within the community that just only want to look at this as these things are here to help. They're benevolent. They're here. But I would say that you should prepare for both just in case. Like us as humanity, if we go in the love and light route and then at the moment of disclosure, it turns out we find out that it's a malevolent presence, then we haven't prepared ourselves for the event. And with that being said, just think about this. I would hope in the moment, if it is a malevolent presence, they're coming in or whatever they're going to do, that the government does attempt to defend us, because you have to remember there is something called the continuity of government. There are bunkers all around the country, and guess who's going in those bunkers? The government. Not us. So we will be left to fend for ourselves, potentially, if something like that were to occur. So you should be in the mindset that something could be prepared for both sides. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I agree 150% with you, man. That's all you can do. You can't sit around and worry about it. Is it an inevitability? I think so, eventually. But I also think everything's connected. So, I think this is just a further advancement of where we're going to be as a people, a civilization, and as a planet. I'm one of these guys, Rob. I love America. I love the fact that we're, in the greatest country in the world, despite the problems we have internally and the fact we can't get along. But we're very lucky to live here. But the truth of the matter is, eventually, I'm also a realist. And eventually, it's not going to be United States of America. It's going to be, about the planet Earth. Right. It's going to be us as a human race. It's not going to be black, white, purple, pink, Asian. It's not going to be about race, religion, anything. It's about us as human beings. Yeah. And that's what it's eventually. And that's my belief. I think it's eventually going to boil down to that. And if we're not ready for it, and the governments haven't prepared us for it, then we're done.
And that's why we need to. That's why we need disclosure, because we need that unity moment.
Think about that. Tell me that wouldn't bring everyone together.
It for sure would.
I don't care. I don't care. And I'm one of these guys. Racism to me is just it's disgusting. It's vile. I'm a teacher in real life, and that's one of the things that just my kids know it'll set me off, and any kind of old stuff like that is one of them. And I attribute that to being where I was raised, and I had good parents. My mom, everyone. Well, I was a little kid. Everyone's equal. Don't you? You're no better than anyone else. No one that can judge is God. Blah blah blah. I was raised that way.
Yes.
But I think that also raised me to think that we are also one big human family.
Yes.
And see, that's where I think we have the biggest problems is we have all this stupidity and all this dumb stuff. The fact that we argue about what we argue about is just pathetic. It's like, listen, we need to pull together as a unified human race. All right. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter what country you live in. You're still a human being.
We'll leave it right there. As we're at the end of the hour, we got to do this again for sure.
Definitely.
We have each other's contacts, so we'll set it up. And I'll just leave it with this. definitely hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Why not be prepared? And if you wouldn't mind, I'll give you the last word if you want to tell everybody where they can find you.
First of all, hey, Rob, thank you so much for having me. I've had a blast. I'm easy to find. CryptedGuide.com, AmericanCryptidParanormal.com, and of course, you can get us at 1-800-329-4851 at any time of the day or night. That's our 800 number. And what's cool about the websites is they're all linked to one page. So Cryptid Guy goes right to American Cryptid and Paranormal. It actually links to your show with Dave Scott on the affiliates page. So what I like to do is I like to just I connect with everyone, and it's all right there on one website. That's we publish our evidence and our pictures, and it's one of these things. When we put stuff out there, I want you to make your decision what you think this is. I'm not telling you what it is. This is what we found. You tell me what it is. Exactly. And I just want to say thank you so very much for having me. And God bless you, and God bless all the audience. Thank you so much.
Same to you, Christian McLoud, the Cryptid Guy. We will be talking again soon. Have a great rest of your night, man. Take care.
Thank you.
Later. All right, we're going to go ahead and get ready to go to break here. As we come back here in hour number 3, we're going to jump back in with none other than David Scott, potentially Tim James, potentially, as we go ahead and get ready for the UFO report. You guys don't go anywhere. Action Pack hour number 3. See you guys in just a minute.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the
You're
needle.
listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, after hour number 3, with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, as we go ahead and get ready to jump into what should be an eventful hour number 3. Definitely want to talk to everybody out there. Don't forget, you guys can follow us on X and Instagram at Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Radio Show, and our archives, right? YouTube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Consider going there and checking up on things that you may have missed as we go ahead and get ready to jump into the UFO report. And I might have a little theme music. We might be being joined by somebody you guys are familiar with, maybe a couple people here. So let's go ahead and get ready to bring them in as we prepare to bring in.
Come here, I'm gonna eat you. Get in my belly.
David Scott and Tim James.
Yeah, Tim couldn't make it. You can get rid of that other one.
Okay. All right, being joined here by Dave Scott, who somewhere in the world is dealing with the infrastructure that is akin to infrastructure in the early 1900s. We do appreciate you joining us, Dave. What's going on? I can't hear you. Negative, Ghost Rider. Hop out and hop back in. Once again, infrastructure akin to that of the early 1900s, as David Scott is joining us via Telegram tonight. Nothing. I heard you a moment ago, so that's weird, but not now. Oop, sorry. There you go. I heard something. Speak.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yes, sir.
Beauty. What's happening, my man?
Hey, you tell me. It sounds like you guys are putting duct tape on the wires out there and getting things back together. What's going on?
Well, my cable company didn't show up today, so I couldn't get my internet fixed. So what's happened here, just quickly, Rob, is apparently there is a bad signal connection on my cable from my cable company that is affecting the bottom of my street and going up my street. And my house is the last place on the block that the connection actually happens, which means that everybody else who is using the internet on my street, well, they get it first. And literally my internet is coming in and out every 90 seconds. It cuts out.
And this is a perfect example, Dave, of problems that we have here in 2024 live streaming, but somehow they were able to have a flawless broadcast from the moon in 1969. This is what blows my mind. That's why it could be questionable.
You went there. Wow. But I do have to tell you, I am a little bit angry tonight. And it actually started probably at about midnight last night. I was crawling into bed. I was all tired. And then all of a sudden, no, this was Wednesday night. I apologize because I'm a day behind here. And all of a sudden I got real angry. And what it has to do with, Rob, is it has to deal with Lou Elizondo.
More.
We're going to get in a lot of Lou tonight. And so Tim couldn't make it. I don't know if you heard that. Tim couldn't make it. He is pretty sick tonight. And I told him that I would cover for him on this. But I was going to do my Dave 101 last night on this until the tech issues happened. So, as you know, for the last number of months, Rob and audience, I have been in contact with the publishing company of Lou Elizondo's new book, Imminent, which is coming out openly on the 20th. And we have been trying to set up an interview. Well, it has been weeks since I've heard from them. And the last number of messages have been really, really odd, shall we say, for a publishing company that wants to get this person out on the air and get his not only his book published or his book talked about, but hopefully to try and generate some sales. We have always had a good relationship with Lou Elizondo. So even though it indirectly involves Lou, he has no decision making on this, and it is 100% on the PR firm. So let me explain. A number of months ago, we found out that his book was going to be coming out in August. I got an email from the publishing company, from Mr. Elizondo himself, and they put me in touch, and we started chatting with a bunch of emails. And originally, they wanted us to interview Lou on the show within the first week of his book coming out. I was very impressed. I said, great, let's book a date. And I explained to them the times that we are on, that we are a live radio show. We are not a podcast, that we have hundreds or thousands of listeners each night on the show, not just in YouTube, but on the podcast network that we run on live, as well as all of our terrestrial radio stations. So they come back to me about 2 weeks later, and they say, can you do 1 o'clock in the afternoon? I said, no, I cannot do 1 o'clock in the afternoon on that date, because our show runs at 9 p.m. Pacific to 11 p.m. Pacific for the interview portion. And I would really appreciate Mr. Elizondo at that time, because he has done this show a few times, and he has always been gracious enough with his time, and he has no problem staying up to that time in order to do the show. So I could schedule that date for him, not a problem, but it will be at our time, not your time of choice. Get an email back, let us check our schedule. 3 weeks later, get an email back from them. Could you do 12 o'clock on this day? No, I cannot do 12 o'clock on this day, because our show runs at 9 p.m. Pacific to 11 p.m. Pacific in a 2-hour interview. Mr. Elizondo has always been gracious with his time for Spaced Out Radio. We have a good relationship going, and we are not a recorded podcast. We are a live radio show. This went on the same direction, not once, not twice, but 5 different times. The last time I emailed them was about 3 weeks ago, when I got a response back, which stated that they were no longer booking his show or him for any time in August, but that they would look to us sometime in the fall. And I went, okay. Originally, you wanted him to come on Spaced Out Radio on the first week, and now we're having to wait till fall. So on Wednesday night, as I'm trying to relax and get ready for bed after the show, this crap starts going through my head. Excuse me. And I start getting angry. And the more I thought about it, the angrier I got, because I was like, I don't bend over for anybody with a book. I'm giving you free airtime. I am giving you hundreds or thousands of listeners, okay, to tune in and listen to what you have to say. We're not a YouTube podcast that has 358 subscribers. Okay, we have 26,000 plus subscribers. We have all of our terrestrial radio station outlets that bleeds into Toronto, bleeds into Phoenix, bleeds into New Orleans. That's a lot of people, Rob, in those 3 areas alone. Millions of people. Okay? For our public who doesn't understand how radio works, they break it down by how many people are listening at that time. We average around around 200,000, just to round it up a little bit. We average around 200,000 listeners per show. And the numbers keep going up in those markets. I talked to one of our radio stations, Saga 960, the owner, Jody Panu, just yesterday. And I said, how's the numbers? She goes, they keep going up and up, Dave. You just keep doing what you're doing. I'm smiling. And I said, well, just wait till the weekend starts. Then it's going to get real good for you. Putting a little plug in there for you, Robbie G.
Love it.
All right. So I started talking or texting on Signal a number of other people I know within the UFO community. Have you received any confirmation on when you will get your interview with Lou Elizondo? Some of the biggest names, I'm not going to mention their names, some of the biggest names in our field have all been put off and do not have a time set for Elizondo by this PR firm, his publishing company. Now, of course, they're going to do the Fox News, the News Nations, the probably with George Knapp, Coast to Coast AM. And when you have 6-8 million people listening to you a night, you go to the big ones first. I understand that. He's probably going to do the New York Post, the New York Times, the LA Times, and all the big nationwide newspapers first. I get that. Then they'll put him on a lot of the talk shows that are on television in Chicago and New York and LA and everywhere they can. That's the obvious thing. He'll probably do Joe Rogan. I mean, Joe Rogan has a couple million listeners per show. Why wouldn't they? That's a smart move. But here's one thing that I'm learning. Not even one of his closest allies, who is working for one of the UFO groups and has a pretty famous podcast, has been able to get him booked yet. A major online UFO reporting site out of England has not been able to get an interview confirmed yet. I talked to 7 different people, and nobody has an interview booked with Elizondo. And these are all people who have waved the Elizondo flag for the last 7 years. Nobody has him booked. So my issue with this, Rob, and I'm curious to see your point on it as well. And please, if the audience wants to tune in, they can tune in and give their opinion. I think this publication company is trying to keep him away from the UFO field. I think that they think we're a bunch of wingnuts. I think that they think that we don't have a large audience base because we are a niche category. I don't think that they understand the medium of radio compared to the medium of podcast, which is a way different audience size for the most part. Okay, there's a lot of podcasts out there that get millions of views on every different subject, from Joe Rogan to football podcasts. I mean, you look at the New Heights podcast, they're getting a couple million downloads and viewers each and every week that they're on. Okay, but I think by the signs that I see, they are ignoring and the people who support him. They are biting the hand of the people who are going to buy his book immediately. And I think it's a real travesty that until today, there has been no podcast announced. The only one that we know of that has been booked so far is Martin Willis's show. That's it. The rest of us have not even received a date or a confirmation or anything regarding Elizondo. Now, Elizondo, for his part, from what I'm hearing, is not allowed to speak to any sort of media outlet right now. He's on a publication ban until the book comes out. I know there have been people who have sent him text messages. I have not. I've stayed away from that. But there are people who are close to him with podcasts and YouTube channels who have tried getting a hold of him to get an interview about the book. He has not returned any messages. These are people where when they message Lou, Lou gets back to them not within days, but usually within hours. They have not heard from him. And I think it's a real sad state of affairs that our community is going to be mainly the community that is buying his book, and we are not getting an opportunity to interview him until later on, when there's no point to interview him at that point, because all the questions would have been answered. All the cool things that we would want to hit him up on have been answered by other more, let's say, bigger mediums: radio, television, newspaper. And we're going to be stuck with a tired Elizondo, with a tired man whose voice is going to be tired, and about talking about this subject, which means that he's probably going to end up cutting down time. Instead of agreeing to 2 hours, he might ask for half an hour or an hour and a half. And that's not his fault. That's because he's going to be on a media whirlwind doing everything they tell him to do because it's under contract. It's not probably not by choice, but under contract. And we are going to get stuck with the breadcrumbs. So now I'm in the dilemma of wondering, and I was talking to a couple other people about this, is it even worth us interviewing him? You could say we have to because of the name and the association with the book and everything. But remember, Rob, the one thing that we have told everybody about our show: we are not an infomercial for a book. It doesn't matter whether it's Elizondo, Grant Cameron, Richard Dolan, or anybody who's written a book. We are not a infomercial of free time. And this publication, which if they went and looked how many YouTube channels have interviewed Elizondo over the years and the amount of audience that he has been privy to, those are the people who are buying his book. It's not somebody watching on Fox News. It's not somebody who's going to watch The View. It's not somebody who's going to read The Hill. Sure, he'll sell a few more, but he's not going to sell as many books unless they go to this community. Now, this is the same tactics that back in 2017, the To the Stars Academy pulled, where they wanted to be the new wave of ufologists, as you remember, but they wanted nothing to do with the UFO community. In fact, Tom DeLonge's sister, Carrie, who was the PR person for the To the Stars Academy, did nothing to promote the TTSA, their goals, their boundaries, and what they stood for with the UFO community. They did nothing with it. They didn't want it. And Elizondo even told me himself, and I had other people tell me, the biggest mistake that they made when they first came into the To the Stars Academy was they ignored the UFO audience, the people like you, like me, and like our great audience who tune in every night because A, they're interested, B, they may have had a sighting, C, they may have had an experience for them to understand. And I think it's unconscionable that this PR firm for the publication company would have the audacity to take that same route that failed the TTSA, and they are really slapping the UFO field right now in the face. Now, hopefully in the next week or so, they will start coming out with some dates for some other people. I'm just not sure right now whether or not I even want to interview Elizondo when all we're going to get is breadcrumbs. Our audience is worth more than breadcrumbs, and I don't know what to do.
Yeah, Dave Scott, that's a mouthful. And I will say this. the saying, what's the saying? You go home with who brought you to the dance, right? And there was a point in time when Elizondo came out, with the intent on spreading the word that this thing is a real thing. We should be paying attention to this. And he did every podcast. He did big ones. He did small ones. He did hundreds and hundreds of podcasts.
That's right.
Now, I don't know if as we saw at the end of that tour, he was a little over it. He was a little detached in a lot of the final interviews that he did. And I don't know if that goes into the decision making here. I will say that I've been a fan of Lou Elizondo. I mean, let's be real. Him coming out in 2017 is really one of the main reasons why we have momentum here today. And we always have to remember that. And I have spoken on his behalf as far as his intent, being optimistic about his intent, because there's others out there that have said towards the end of that, and then when he stepped away, that it was a money grab for him, and he was involved in To the Stars and all these other things where it seemed like he was in it for the dollar. And I was looked at that and was like, wow, now that can't be the thing. I mean, why come out in the way that he did, and why do all these smaller podcasts? The intent seemed like he wanted to get the message out there. And then I would hope that would be the same tour he would take with the book. Now, I will say, if it turns out that he is only going to do these larger podcasts, then I think what that'll do, and I hope Lou is listening, or someone that knows Lou that can maybe tag Lou on this, but I think it will taint the message that he's bringing in this book, because it'll all be overshadowed by those who have said this whole time he's just in it for the money. This will give them a larger stage and a more of a presence to make those sort of comments and kind of overshadow what he's trying to bring with the book. So I hope he's thinking this part through.
I know you're coming up on a break here.
Yes, sir.
Very, very quickly. Let's continue this conversation after the break, because I got a couple more things to respond to you about that.
We will. As we go ahead and get ready to jump into this break, we are talking Lou Elizondo. What's the plans? Why the radio silence? No pun intended. As we come back right here on Spaced Out Radio, you guys don't go anywhere. We got about 30 more minutes with none other than Dave Scott, whose infrastructure is akin to that of those in the 1900s, joining us via cell phone. You guys don't go anywhere. All right, pal.
Hey, can you do me a favor too?
Yes.
I don't have access right now. Could you bring up the New York Times article about imminent, just the front piece or of what they said? Because that was pretty insultive.
See if I can find it.
Yeah. Green Street had it. Sweet Robbie G, your studio's looking awesome, man.
Love it. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, and thank you so much for covering my ass here the last 2 nights. I apologize to you for that, brother.
Dude, it's all good, man. I got to have a really great conversation with Kevin Day. We built the bond, and
nice.
The same way with our guest tonight, Christian McLoud.
Isn't Christian hilarious?
He is. He's very hilarious, and he's a realist, and his intent is in the right place, and I love that. And that's why it was so nice to speak to him.
Dude's a real deal, man. I got to meet him. He's one of those guys. He's like, how you and I have been like right from the beginning, man. Where it's been like Insta friends since the first time we talked.
Yep.
And it was that way with Christian as well. Just Insta friend right off the bat. Like we just clicked.
And he said that as well. He said that as well. And I said to him, and it makes sense that when you have people who are in it for the same purposes, that's what happens. Like energies attract, and that's kind of what we're experiencing here. Is this the article here? A memoir offers an insider's perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh, by the way, this is what Christian said of you tonight after hour one. I said, "Are you doing good?" He goes, "Hour one is down. Great guy. He needs to hang out with us."
Love it. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
Just being genuine, man. Genuine people that care about people. I've always said that about you. That you know, you're a person that wears your heart on your sleeve. You care about people. I've said that, and I'm the same way. And it, you know, people like that we attract, and we're the type of people that should be in these positions, talking to the people, right?
Yeah, you got that right. How long do we have, buddy?
About 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes, awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Yeah, Aaron P says people in the UFO community are going to buy the book regardless of what he is going on and or talking. His publicist is looking for an untapped market. And we'll get into that, Aaron. I mean, you're not wrong, but
no, he's not wrong at all. Well, let's talk about that comment. That's a good comment.
Yeah, I saved it
to lead into. So
I saved that.
It actually rained here today.
Yeah, we don't know what that is here. We're in the desert. We don't get much rain here. We got Jason Gleaves tomorrow on After Hours, the After Hours radio show. Actually, we've rebranded, so you don't have to ask why we're taking commercials. It clearly says the After Hours radio show. So if you can't read, please let me know and I'll read it for you.
I think the audience needs to know too that, you know, we are turning you into a weekend host for our radio stations. Our radio stations for the last couple of years have been asking for more from us. They've been running our show double, triple time on the weekends because people love it so much on a couple of our stations. And the fact that we're now able to add you onto that, Rob, it just makes it smarter for us.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, I'm prepared, and you always want to raise the bar. So I think we're going to be kicking butt, and you know, there's shows that should watch out. So here we go, coming back from break.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. After hour number 3.5, 2.5. We're going into the end of this show as we come back here with Dave Scott. Talking Lou Elizondo, the book imminent, Why the Radio Silence. We would love to have him on. We would love to have the conversation. Let's do it, Lou. If you're out there listening, let's make it happen. Back with Dave Scott. All right, Dave. So I did bring up the article that we talked about with the New York Times. If you want to go ahead and go into that.
Well, let me finish up before we get into that.
Yes.
Let me finish off a couple things just to clarify here. Okay, this is not Lou Elizondo's decision. It's not Lou ignoring the media requests. He has nothing to do with the media requests. And in fact, I will go as far as to say, in dealing with PR companies before with Spaced Out Radio and with my time in terrestrial radio, this has nothing to do with Elizondo. Elizondo signed a contract with the publishing company, which said that they would take care of the press and the media tour that goes along with the book. He has no control over this scheduling and what is going to be happening. That's why they have a PR team. Okay, so I just want the public to be clear. This isn't Elizondo's doing. A lot of people will probably blame Elizondo for not going on their favorite podcast or YouTube channel or even radio show. His hands are tied. Now, do I know this for a fact? No. However, all signs point to other people who I know who have written books with publishing companies who do not have control of their media schedule, especially when they sign a deal with the publishing company for probably a large, minimum six-figure amount of money. Okay, so this is a big one. They're handling the PR. I wouldn't beat up Lou too much on this one.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And like I said, like I said, I will always appreciate what Lewis done coming out in 2017, getting this ball rolling, telling a lot of the information that we didn't have and we didn't know, we wouldn't have known otherwise. And you got to always appreciate that. So I know his heart is in the right place to come out and do that. And then, but it gets sticky, like you said, when you have management or, like in this case, a publishing company involved where the publishing company's main goal is to sell books. That's what they want to do. But then at the same time, as the person involved, you have to look at your manager, your management, or your publishing company, because they're the public facing entity. And you have to question if their approach is the right approach or not. Right. So I hope Lou, hears this and realizes what it is that they're doing on his behalf, and maybe steps in and kind of lets them know he would like to do this a little differently.
And we do know that, and I believe it was Aaron in the chat room who stated, look, they already know the UFO community is going to buy this book. They're trying to get other outlets to do it as well. Look, I understand that this is about book sales. This is about trying to get more people out there who normally wouldn't buy the book. I fully agree with that. But you know what? You can intermix the interviews. You don't push one piece of the community to the side for a piece of the community or another community, pardon me, that has no clue who Lou Elizondo is. Lou Elizondo would be considered an A-lister in our field. In reality, to the rest of the country in the United States, even around the world, nobody even knows who Lou Elizondo is. To them, it's going to be just another weirdo who's making some fantastical claims put on paper with no proof or evidence to go and back it up. We're going to believe him for the most part. The majority of us will, because we've been waiting for this story for 7 years. What they should have done from a PR firm, if I put my PR hat on for a second, what they should have done is intermixed the shows instead of going heavy on the people who are going to be writing about him or broadcasting about him, who have no clue what he is like, who he is. All they're going to read is little headlines about, this is the guy who ran the UFO program. This is the guy who was the czar of torture at Guantanamo Bay. What do you think the mainstream media is going to focus on? Are they going to focus on the UFO part, the remote viewing part, some of the other fantastical claims that Elizondo makes with him now coming out as an experiencer? Or are they going to focus on the nickname, the czar of torture? The mainstream media has tried to stay away from the UFO topic for a long time. Thank you to Fox News and News Nation, and even the New York Times for taking this subject a little bit more seriously. But any of the other major outlets are not going to focus on UFOs. I'll be shocked if they did. Okay? They're going to focus on what happened at Guantanamo.
I'll push back on that a little bit, Dave, because I think when it comes down to things that happen within your duties as a soldier within the military under the government, you follow orders. So you aren't making personal decisions. You are following orders, and you don't you don't turn down an order. You just have to do what you have to do. And I think everybody understands that part. So I don't know that they can really tag him in that fashion and really harp on that, because essentially he could immediately say, I was following orders. And then now you have to talk to the government about that. So I think if they did bring it up, it wouldn't really live long, because his immediate response is going to be, I followed orders, if he's coming clean with what he did. And then I think that's the end of the story. I think he's actually in a great position right now with this book, because he was the one who opened the floodgates. He's been away from the scene for a while. Since he's been gone, we've had networks like News Nation really embrace the UFO subject. You have Ross Coulthard reporting on that large stage and bringing in guys that the public would have normally said or out of their mind. Ross is putting them on the larger stage. So I think Elizondo for surely goes there. And
Absolutely.
I think if there's stuff in this book that really is impactful, which I think there is, I think there's more to, I think there's things that he did not say initially that he's going to say in the book. And I think with that stage, it's going to be, I think it's going to be accepted.
Let's also remember too, that this book has been heavily redacted a number of times. It was supposed to be published up to 2 years ago. Okay. But due to his NDAs and due to the security and the sensitivity of the stories, it has had to be redacted by government officials a number of times. Now, I've heard as many as 5 times. I do not know if that is accurate or not, but sources close to Elizondo have told me that it has been around 5 times. It may be more, it may be less. You just can't, a person of Elizondo's stature and what he knows and what he has been through just doesn't write the first all tell all of an autobiography and then just put it out there. The U.S. government is going to have a say with that to see if he is doing potentially anything illegal, which is breaking his NDAs. So we have to be very, very careful of that regarding what is actually said. So it could be a number of things, Rob, okay, but we do know that the PR firm has, this is what we do know 100%. The PR firm has not contacted a lot of UFO shows who have put in requests for Elizondo. Okay, we're all waiting. We are all, and I find it funny. Here's another thing. I really like Martin Willis. I think Martin Willis is a brilliant talent and extremely smart man, but he is also highly skeptical of anything to do with UFOs. Okay, so why would you put Elizondo on Martin Willis's channel, which has approximately the same amount of subscribers as we do on YouTube, but you would not put him on somebody's show who has a larger audience, who has been more of a supporter of Elizondo, not bragging that we kiss Elizondo's ass, because we don't. Okay, we've been very fair with him, and I think he likes it. He's liked our line of questioning. I mean, don't forget, in the first interview that we ever did with him, we were the ones, and it's still out there. People are still using the clip today. We were the ones at Spaced Out Radio that actually got him to admit for the first time that he had seen strange things, i.e. aliens, face to face. Nobody else got that. We got that. And he trusted us enough to give a very light answer saying, oh, well, I've seen a number of interesting things. Well, we know what you saw. You just admitted that you've seen things when I asked him directly about seeing an alien gray face to face. Okay? So why they would put him with somebody who is as skeptical at times as Martin Willis is, and I say that with all due respect to Martin Willis, because I think he's a brilliant YouTube broadcaster and very smart, not small, smart. Okay. I don't understand their selection process. That being said, I would be less concerned if, say, all of Elizondo's go-to people that he has used over the years, whether it's Chris Sharp, whether it's Matt Ford, whether it's Vinny whether it's a number of people, Thomas Fessler, another one, whether he went to them first. None of those guys have dates yet. I know that for a fact because that's who I talked to. Okay. And now we have to wait and see how this is going to play out. And like I said, we then need to determine whether or not it's even worth having Elizondo on if all we're going to get is the breadcrumbs, Rob. And that's the big journalistic dilemma for me.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here for the PR company as well. This may not be let's look at one thing. For one, the book is not out yet. It's set to come out, I believe, August 20th. However, that date could push out. They could push the date out tomorrow, and we may be unaware of their plans there. So there may be a delay in the book. Secondly, I will say there is, I think, something that affects a traditional rollout is the fact that a few weeks ago, part of the book was leaked.
Yes.
So I think that takes some of the fire out of a release, and their perspective may be, well, there's a lot of these podcasts, smaller podcasts too, have reported on this leak and have even given information from the leak and talked about that within their shows. So why take the time to go to every podcast now? Because half of the information is already out there. So let's just focus on the larger podcast. That could be the angle that they're taking. And I think the leak may have played a big part in that. And we just may not know what their plans going forward due to the leak is going to be.
Oh, and I think there's quite possibility of that, Rob. I don't think that's playing devil's advocate. I think that's obvious. And it's obvious that they want to, try and sell the book to a different audience, which is why all the major media outlets are going to get it first, which, is to be accepted. And if I were in Elizondo's position and I would want that, I would want to be on the bigger outlets right off the bat as well. But what I'm saying is you need to be mixing in those of our community. Now, I'm not saying every channel. I'm saying ones that have a large audience reach. So you take the ones that have a large audience reach. Okay, we do. Jimmy Church does. Let's see what he does with Coast to Coast. I will assume he will go on Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp's podcast, which is a great, great informative show. I love both those guys. Okay, not a problem. I want to see if they mix it up. I think that's very important to see if they are going to mix it up. And if they're not, the UFO community, once again, is going to get breadcrumbs. And what they will probably end up doing is cutting down the amount of time. So let's say if you have a 3-hour show like I do and like you do, they may say, well, we'll give you Lou for half an hour, or we'll give you Lou for an hour. Okay. And instead of knowing that, well, previously Lou has done an hour and a half. He's done 2 hours on the show. He's done an hour. Okay. So let's see where this goes. Right now, the only thing that I could say right now is I think it's thoroughly a question mark and potentially a story as to why Elizondo hasn't come out with more, or not Elizondo, pardon me, the PR company hasn't come out with more dates for people within the UFO community. All right. And I think there's a good chance that many of us, and it could be us included, get ripped off by this, that we don't even get a chance to do it. So we're going to see how this plays out. It's a wait and see game. I still have to decide whether or not I want to take the chance. I want to read the book first. I want to get excited when I read the book. I've got my book ordered. It should be here on Thursday, according to Amazon. And I want to take that next weekend, and I want to binge read the hell out of that book. And I want to finish it by Sunday. And I hope my mind is blown. I really do. I just hope the PR company comes through. And I'm sure after the book, my attitude will change a little bit. But it's just the anger and the protection that I have of SOR. Not that we deserve the interview, but I do want to make sure that we have a a good shot of getting him for quality time, not just a book review. Because if they're only going to honor us for 30 minutes, it's not worth my time. It's not worth your time, because all we're doing then is doing a book review. The problem with a lot of these PR companies, it's not just this one. It goes for athletics, it goes for music, it goes for movies. They come up to you and say, hey, will you get my writer on, or will you get this guest on? And this is when we want to do it. So what they want is they want the free airtime, whether it's, or the free press time in the paper, or whether it's on News Nation, or whether it's on what we do in a long form format. Okay. They want that airtime for free as an infomercial to sell the book. They don't care about Rob G. They don't care about Dave Scott. They don't care about Vinnie Adams or Fessler or anybody else who's going to be interviewing him. What they want is they want the free press. But in the meantime, this is a company, lack of better term, every other media outlet that I have got, even when I interviewed David Paulides, you know what he did? Before we got there, he got his PR firm to send me a copy of his book. Every author that has wanted to come on this show offers me a book, a copy that I can read or skim through to take notes. And that's where I remind them, no, I don't need a copy of your book, because I'm going to interview you. If we get into the book, we're going to get into the book. But if we don't get into the book, I'm still going to promote your book, but I'm not an infomercial. I have way too much respect for our audience to give them a 1 hour or 2 hour infomercial on why they should buy somebody's book. Okay, I'm not on Dragon's Den trying to do a sales pitch here. This PR firm didn't even offer any media outlet a copy of the book, at least in our group. Now, I don't know whether they did for News Nation or the New York Times or whoever. Okay, I don't know if they did. But I can tell you one thing. This is the first PR company that I've dealt with that has not offered me a copy of the book to prepare for an interview. That says something to me.
Okay, let me push back on that too, Dave. We're talking, normally that would be the normal process.
Right.
However, they've experienced a leak, and leaks happen when you put the book out there before it's released. So it would make sense that they aren't sending out any copies at this point, because they have already experienced a leak. Now, here's what I'll say as well. You have to also consider the fact that at least probably 400 or 500 podcasts that Lou has done prior to him stepping away, he has exhausted all of the information that you could ask him prior to reading the book. So maybe the outlook is, hey, read the book. Now we have new things to talk about, because if we have him on and we haven't consumed the book and thought about the material, the new things that he may present, then we're just rehashing old conversations. We have nothing new.
I understand that, Rob, but okay, if they want me to promote the book, pay me. Pay you. Pay Fessler. Pay Vinnie Adams. Pay Chris Sharp. Pay us. Okay, your time's not free, and neither is mine.
I understand that.
Now I will push back on what you said, because I think you brought up a great point about the leak. Normally what happens is this is what happens, and as you get into this game a little further, you'll understand it a little bit more, what I'm saying. Not saying that you're wrong, but I'm just going to give you the outside perspective. When a date is booked by a PR company, the first thing they say is, where can I send you a copy of the book? Okay. Now, I ordered my copies 3 months ago. Okay. I've been waiting for this book for 3 months. When the first day of book of or 2 months, whatever it's been, when it started coming out, that it was going to go on sale, when it hit Amazon for pre-sales, I immediately ordered mine. That's the first time I've ever done that because I'm excited about reading this. I don't get excited about a lot of books. This one I'm excited about because I got to know. I want to know. Okay. But what I am saying, Rob, is that when a PR company books a media event, they normally do offer you to provide a book.
Right.
Now, maybe they haven't offered it yet because they haven't booked a date, but that is one of the things that I find concerning, and I'm going to see if it happens, because if they say to me, "Hey, we'd like to send you a copy of the book," great. I'll already have a copy. What I'll do is I'll probably end up raffling it off to the audience. Right? I think that would be a fair thing to do.
Right.
Right? Because I have my copy. And if the audience doesn't want it, well, we'll figure out a way for it. You know?
Right. Right.
So, like I said, everything is wait and see right now.
Right. And I'm just under the impression that, maybe they did start doing that. One of the early outlets that they offered the book to early ended up being one of the ones that actually leaked the information. So if that were the case, you would stop sending them out.
And wouldn't that make sense if they did that to the New York Post? And look who writes for the New York Post, Stephen Greenstreet.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand. I just say, definitely let's look at all sides of it, because we're unsure why they're not doing it, but I think we will find out here shortly.
And like I said, my attitude on it may change next week, Rob. Quickly, I know we're running out of time. Quickly bring up that headline from the New York Times. I think that's the most important one. Do you want to read that? I can't see that.
Yeah, definitely. Let me see. So, a memoir offers an insider's perspective into Pentagon's UFO hunt. In Imminent, the former intelligence official who ran a once secret program shares some of what he knows. So, this is an article credit to Ralph Blumenthal and Leslie Kane. Luis Elizondo made headlines in 2017 when he resigned as the senior intelligence official running a shadowy Pentagon program investigating UFOs, and publicly denounced the excessive secrecy, lack of resources, and internal opposition that he said were thwarting the effort. Elizondo's disclosures at the time created a sensation. They were buttressed by explosive videos and testimony from Navy pilots who had encountered unexplained aerial phenomena, and led to congressional inquiries, legislation, and a 2023 House hearing in which a former U.S. intelligence official testified that the federal government has retrieved crashed objects of non-human origin. Now, Elizondo, 52, has gone further in a new memoir. In the book, he asserted that a decades-long UFO crash retrieval program has been operating as a super secret umbrella group made up of government officials working with defense and aerospace contractors. Over the years, he wrote, technology and biological remains of non-human origin have been retrieved from these crashes. Quote, humanity is, in fact, not the only intelligent life in the universe and not the alpha species, end quote, Elizondo wrote. The book Imminent Inside the Pentagon's Hunt for UFOs is being published by HarperCollins on August 20th after a year-long security review by the Pentagon. Pentagon clearance does not imply endorsement. The New York Times obtained an advance copy of Imminent under embargo. The Pentagon program currently working to address the sightings of UFOs or UAP for, quote, unidentified anomalous phenomena, as they are now called, quote, continues its review of the historical record of the U.S. government UAP programs, said Susan Goff, whatever you want to say, of Department of Defense spokesperson. To date, Goff added that program, quote, has not discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any programs regarding the possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently. Elizondo was, for years, a high-ranking military intelligence officer and ran highly classified programs for both the White House and the National Security Council. In 2009, he was recruited into the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, which investigated reports of UFOs. In Imminent, Elizondo described his struggle within the program to investigate the phenomena and his efforts since his resignation in 2017 to push for greater transparency on what is officially known about UAP. He also wrote about personal encounters with UAP, green orbs that he said visited his home while he worked for the Department of Defense. In the book, he expressed alarm over the potential danger to humanity posed by the existence of technology that he said far exceeds what the United States or other countries have or can explain. Elizondo wrote that the craft and, quote, the non-human intelligence controlling them present, at best, a very serious national security issue, and at worst, the possibility of an existential threat to humanity. In a foreword to the book, Christopher Mellon, a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, wrote that without Elizondo, quote, the U.S. government would still be denying the existence of UAP and failing to investigate a phenomenon that may well be the greatest discovery in human history. The program led by Elizondo investigated sightings, near misses, and other encounters between UAP and Navy jets. It also collected data from incidents involving military and intelligence operations, including images of extraordinary craft maneuvers that were repeatedly captured by sophisticated sensors. Within the program, he said he learned the vehicles demonstrating, quote, beyond next generation technology have been observed since the 1940s. In the early 1950s, when the UFOs became a Cold War national security concern, strict secrecy was enforced. Quote, whoever controls such technology could control the world, Elizondo wrote. Much of the information collected by this program remains classified, but 2 unclassified Navy videos of UAP were cleared for public release at Elizondo's request and posted by the New York Times when it broke the news of the Pentagon's secret UFO unit in December 2017. In an interview, Elizondo said that he had firsthand knowledge of what he was discussing, but that his security clearances prevented him from explaining the source of his knowledge. He got Pentagon approval to push his book partly by attributing some of the information to other sources whose comments had previously been approved. Elizondo also said he was not approved to discuss his involvement in any other secret projects beyond the program he once led. With no prior interest in UFOs, Elizondo grew up in Florida, the son of American mother and a Cuban father who fought alongside Fidel Castro before breaking with him and joining the 1961 Bay of Pigs invasion. Taught to shoot, drive a motorcycle, and fly a plane by his father. He went to college and enlisted in the Army. He served in Afghanistan and also ran anti-terrorism missions against ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Hezbollah, and later led secret programs at the Guantanamo Bay Naval Base and prison. In 2007, the Defense Intelligence Agency launched a UFO-related Advanced Aerospace Weapons Systems Application Program funded with $22 million buried in an undeclared budget secured by Harry Reid, who was then the Senate Majority Leader. In 2009, Elizondo became the senior ranking officer running the program's successor, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, along with James Lakatsky and Jay Stratton. Lakatsky, a rocket scientist for the Defense Intelligence Agency, and Stratton, an intelligence official with the U.S. Strategic Command, were both part of the precursor program. Frustrated by what he described as internal opposition and a lack of resources to deal with what he felt was a serious national security threat, Elizondo resigned and decided to bring his concerns to the broader intelligence community, Congress, and the public. Quote, there remains a vital need to ascertain capability and intent of these phenomena for the benefits of the armed forces and the nation, he wrote to James Mattis, then Secretary of Defense, in his resignation letter dated October 4th, 2017. After Elizondo's departure, the program transitioned to become the UAP Task Force. By 2022, it had morphed again into the more visible All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, mandated by Congress to study reports of UAP and release information to the public. Elizondo said that he met with AARO, the AARO director, and his staff for 3 hours in a secure facility on February 2nd, 2023, and gave them classified information about the history of the crash retrieval program. Elizondo continues to hold the highest security clearances and to consult with the government. A veteran scientist with top security clearance, whom Elizondo quotes in the book, Harold E. Putoff, was part of Elizondo's UFO program. A physicist and engineer with a PhD from Stanford University, Putoff worked as the chief scientist on highly classified projects for the government for 50 years, often reporting directly to the head of CIA and the White House advisors. Elizondo, quote, has briefed us on information that he obtained that appears to be firsthand data, and I have no reason to discount that, Putoff said in an interview, quote, he certainly has clearances to get primary information. Elizondo also wrote in the memoir of personal encounters with UAP, describing green glowing orbs about the size of a basketball that invaded his home on and off for 7 years. The objects were able to pass through walls and behaved as if they were under intelligent control, he wrote. The orbs were also witnessed by his wife, 2 daughters, and their neighbors, he wrote. As for, quote, our friends from out of town, they do not appear to be benevolent, he wrote. Perhaps they are neutral, or they could be a threat to humanity. We, quote, we can no longer stick our heads in the sand, he writes. We are not alone.
Powerful stuff. We'll find out next week when we get the book, my man.
Yeah, I can agree, and I think it's going to be awesome. I think Lou has always dropped breadcrumbs, never said things directly. He gives it to you in a way where he wants you to kind of look into it and gain further information on it. So that puts me under the impression that there were some nuggets that maybe he did not mention that were already cleared through Dobser that he may have included in this book. I mean, why write the book if you've already told the story? So there has to be something additional there, and I can't wait to see what that is.
Me too, buddy. Me too.
All right. Well, everybody, we are getting ready to get up out of here. So let me go ahead and get us closed out. Definitely want to thank our super chatters for the night. We had T-Bone showing love. We had T-Bone again. We had CS coming through with the super chat. We do appreciate your love and support for Spaced Out Radio. As we go ahead and rock out the Bumblefoot, saying never, never say never again, showing us phenomenon is real, and we just don't know what we're dealing with. So as we sit here, we definitely want to thank everybody for coming in, everyone from around the globe. Thanks for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. And what's that, you ask? Tell them, Dave Scott.
We own the night.
We own the night, guys. We will see you guys next time. We do appreciate you coming and showing your love. And make sure you guys come to the after hours. We're doing it tomorrow with Jason Gleaves. It's always a great time. If you don't know by now, then you don't know, but you should know. So hopefully we see you guys there. Much love. Take care, guys. All right. Excellent show, everybody. And definitely want to say right after this show, mosey on over to my channel, The Social Dig. That's youtube.com/@MrRobG, just like it shows right up there. youtube.com/@MrRobG. We have an awesome show about to play over there. So the chat, you guys move on over there and continue the conversation. And we will see you guys next time.
Hey, everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have Spaced Out Radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com. Shop there today. And make yourself look good.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Yeah, we ran out of patience. Boil up with a cold heart.